Chapter 670. The arrogant Di Ling, Lin Feng is really terrifying, thought the crowd shivering, watching the demon prey upon Shueisha. Now there was the Azura and another demon. 3 demons from ancient times were fighting for Lin Feng, who had turned himself into a demon. Shueisha couldn't rival with him. It only took 1 demon to defeat him. Lin Feng has so many incredible assets, sighed the crowd. However, they didn't know that Lin Feng initially only had the strength of the Haruka. Later he coincidentally penetrated into the temple of the evil area and had obtained the memories of the Haruka. If he hadn't learned the Haruka skill at the Yunhai sect, he wouldn't have been able to deploy such monstrous strength. Lin Feng was really grateful to Shen Gong for having given them the opportunity to go and practice in the special areas. Lin Feng had spent 7 days in the special area where his thoughts had turned to reality. He had been able to see a world where good and evil, lightness and darkness had fought. People couldn't imagine how powerful and incredible such a battle had been. Lin Feng had entered a world which belonged to remote ages and had experienced it as if he was a part of it. He had visualized the ancient battles and had been able to participate even. That had allowed Lin Feng to understand the skill of the Haruka and develop his physical strength. One could even assert that the things Lin Feng understood in the special region had made him become even stronger than if he had only broken through to another cultivation layer. Boom boom boom. Another brutal attack crashed onto Shueisha's body, which made him groan with pain. He was unable to resist. Now, Lin Feng's strength of the Haruka could already rotate 7,000 times. Besides, it was coupled with the demon body, his punches were monstrously powerful. With the demons he could invoke, he was incredibly strong. Shueisha could barely resist against such a monumental strength, and especially against such an evil power. The demons together did not fear Shueisha's trivial evil skill. "You wanted to kill me, but now I really wonder how you're going to do it," said the demon, making huge steps. On Lin Feng's demon body was a massive amount of black physical strength revolving all around. Everything had become dark and gray. The 3 other demons were fighting at the same time. Shueisha was shaking violently as he continued to flee. "Where are you going?" asked Lin Feng playfully. His gigantic body rose up in the air and chased Shueisha halfway up into the sky. The pressure was so great that Shueisha had to groan. His body was projected away. The 3 demons followed him and Shueisha's face drastically changed. He then shouted extremely loudly, "I forfeit." "Come back," shouted Lin Feng coldly. In a flash, the 3 demons came back to Lin Feng and penetrated into his body again, as if they had merged altogether. "What kind of skill is that?" thought the crowd, astonished. They were shaking. Lin Feng had turned into a demon and then 3 demons had appeared. Lin Feng was monstrously scary. In the darkness of the night, Lin Feng looked at the injured Shueisha and said indifferently, "Can you kill me? If you hadn't given up once again, you would have died twice. You wanted to rank first at the great competition of Shueyu." "Ridiculous," ridiculed Lin Feng. Those words made Shueisha's face turn deathly pale. Lin Feng was humiliating him. He had destroyed his heart and dreams. Shueisha didn't feel like a strong cultivator anymore and had lost his determination. Lin Feng was right though. Shueisha had forfeited twice, so his determination and willpower had been crushed. He thought that he would dazzle all the way on the fighting stage. On top of that, he hadn't fought against Duan Wu Dao and Di Ling yet, but had already forfeited twice. He had lost against Junimo Shi and Lin Feng. He would have never thought that he would lose against those 2. "You're a piece of trash. You call yourself a genius. I really wonder why," continued Lin Feng. Then he turned around and slowly walked away. Shueisha was coughing up blood. Lin Feng had humiliated him so much, he was trash. He was now considered a loser. He had lost twice and thus lost face twice. "Next battle," said Shui Wuchang, whose eyes were sparkling. His heart was also beating faster. Shueisha was already extremely strong. With his corpse qi, he was able to make people turn into cadavers. Even ordinary cultivators at the top of the 8th Xianqi layer would have been crushed by him. And then there was his terrifying spirit. Unfortunately, Shueisha had encountered 2 geniuses who were more terrifying than him. One was Junimo Shi, who could stop Xuesha's evil qi with his vital qi of righteousness, and top of that had an immortal spirit. Then, Lin Feng had turned into a demon and had even invoked other demons. All of them had released terrifying evil energies, much more evil than Xuesha's own evil energies. Xuesha had been unable to resist Lin Feng. All he could do was run away and protect himself. He had lost twice. How tragic. In short, a genius had encountered two even more incredible geniuses than himself. This time, the great competition of Shui Yu had a few terrifying geniuses. On top of that, two other geniuses hadn't shown how strong they really were yet, Di Ling and Duan Wudao. They had won all their battles extremely easily. Therefore, Xuesha's next opponents would be even more terrifying. It seems like Xuesha is going to rank 5th, Lin Feng and Junimo Shi can rival for the 4th place, thought the crowd. Their eyes were brimming with excitement. Being one of the 4 top winners of the competition, what glory! Tang Yu gave up another battle. Her soul had been too injured. How could she fight against Di Ling or Duan Wudao? She had no hope to win against them, so she conceded. Then, Di Ling's turn arrived. He also had to challenge extremely strong cultivators from that moment on. Duan Wudao, Junimo Shi, Xuesha. There wasn't a single weakling. Besides, Lin Feng and Xuesha had just battled, which meant that he had only 2 choices. Junimo Shi and Duan Wudao. In the end, Di Ling looked at Junimo Shi. He still didn't want to fight against Duan Wudao. He wanted to save him for the end. Di Ling and Duan Wudao's battle would certainly be one of the most incredible battles. Junimo Shi looked calm yet a bit nervous. Indeed, Di Ling was one of the strongest cultivators at the competition and was releasing a terrifying battle energy. Di Ling, possessor of the firmament blood, whispered Junimo Shi. He then released a massive amount of vital energy of righteousness which dashed to the skies. Di Ling's eyes were golden as he stared at Junimo Shi. Your vital energy of righteousness and your immortal spirit are incredible. However, the immortal spirit also has limits. A spirit is a kind of strength, and if I keep injuring you, you will run out of strength and energies. If I use a powerful enough physical strength, I can even kill you. Even if you have a very strong spirit, you must be very strong yourself. When the crowd heard Di Ling, they were already anticipating the battle. Indeed, the spirit was only a particular aspect of the cultivator's strength. It was an innate power. Some people could obtain a new spirit after birth, but that was extremely rare. Since the spirit was only an aspect of a cultivator's strength, it had limits. Di Ling was considered as the strongest young man in the competition. His perspectives were much broader than that of others. His future wasn't going to be limited to Xueyu. You are saying that my cultivation has limits and that you can defeat me? Said Junimo Shi to Di Ling. Di Ling nodded impolitely and said, of course, I am going to be the final winner of the competition. You are no threat to me, and Xuesha is even worse off. Lin Feng cannot threaten me either. Only Duan Wudao is strong enough to challenge me. Chapter 671. The Firmament Spirit. How arrogant is Di Ling? Thought the crowd. Di Ling was insufferably arrogant. He despised Junimo Shi and his vital energy of righteousness and his immortal spirit. Junimo Shi was an incredibly strong cultivator, but Di Ling despised him. In Di Ling's eyes, there was only Duan Wudao. We have to fight to verify your beliefs, said Junimo Shi indifferently. He looked calm and serene, especially after hearing how arrogant Di Ling was. Let's fight. You go first then, said Di Ling, looking proud and self-confident. He looked extremely sure that he would win. Nobody could defeat him. Junimo Shi released more vital energy of righteousness which emitted strident whistling sounds. He jumped forwards and landed in front of Di Ling. A terrifying vortex of energy of righteousness started spinning. Finally, Di Ling released some qi and force. It was an extremely brutal firmament energy. He stretched out his arm and shook it, immediately attacking the vital energy of righteousness. Di Ling was absolutely fearless. His hand crossed the vital energy of righteousness and continued moving towards Junimo Shi. Junimo Shi smiled coldly. He jumped and the qi of righteousness started revolving at full speed. He didn't even pay attention to Di Ling's hand, he was just concentrating on his own attack. Ha! Di Ling frowned and immediately moved his hand back. It seemed like Junimoshi's vital energy of righteousness was going insane in the air. Energy of righteousness, destroy the earth and sky, shouted Junimoshi furiously. His strength seemed like it could destroy oceans and mountains. The massive amount of vital energy of righteousness kept depressing Di Ling's body. Di Ling groaned coldly. His clothes were fluttering in the wind. Di Ling moved his hand again, and all around him seemed like the atmosphere was tearing apart. Strident whistling sounds emerged and his energies attacked the vital energy of righteousness. Boom! A terrifying collision-like sound spread in the air. A hurricane formed from the struggle. Junimoshi moved back 3 steps, but Di Ling didn't move at all. He remained standing tall like nothing could affect him. I told you, you can't rival with me. It's useless if you rely on your immortal spirit to resist against me. I am not that stupid, said Di Ling indifferently. A moment before, Junimoshi hadn't cared about Di Ling's attack. He had just attacked at the same time using his vital energy of righteousness. It meant that he had been relying on his immortal spirit to resist Di Ling's attack, but Di Ling wasn't that stupid. He knew that Junimoshi could recover quickly, but he couldn't recover so quickly. Nobody can defeat me, I have the firmament blood. I will have to show you how strong that blood is, said Di Ling. A terrifying blood chi started spreading in the air as he released some firmament blood chi. Pure chi was roaring and rolling in the air powerfully. How strong! No wonder that Di Ling is the strongest cultivator at the competition, thought the crowd. Di Ling's strength was indeed monstrous. His chi could already make people shake. It seemed like it could even make them suffocate. Di Ling raised his fist, and it seemed like the oxygen in the air was disappearing. Brutal firmament chi had appeared on his fist. Junimoshi, since you're using your immortal spirit, I will show you the strength of the firmament, said Di Ling while jumping forwards. The atmosphere was rippling all around him. It seemed like a terrifying physical strength was condensed that fist. Vital energy of righteousness, indestructible, said Junimoshi when he saw that terrifying fist. He was fearless. He condensed his vital energy of righteousness face that fist head-on. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. Junimoshi's punch was destroyed. However, Junimoshi didn't frown at all. His left hand was also filled with vital energy of righteousness and kept moving towards Di Ling. He didn't stop moving forward for even a second. His right hand was injured but recovered extremely quickly. No use, said Di Ling indifferently. He had condensed some firmament strength in his left arm and attacked Junimoshi with it. Di Ling was unperturbed. Junimoshi couldn't believe it. He raised his head and hands. Then his terrifying vital energy of righteousness dashed to the skies. Energies were spinning violently as a terrifying dragon appeared from his hands. Boom, boom, boom. The ground was shaking. The terrifying dragon made Di Ling's body move back and groan coldly. His facial expression looked cold. Incredible, that's incredible, the crowd was awed. They didn't want to miss a single second of that battle. Junimoshi's dragon of righteousness immortal spirit was terrifying. It had managed to push Di Ling back. With it, Junimoshi didn't need to block attacks. He could just attack unceasingly. Even though Junimoshi had only broken through to the very top of the 8th Xianqi layer, he was monstrously strong. Ordinary cultivators of the 9th Xianqi layer couldn't rival with him, but Di Ling had just been injured a little bit. They were both incredible. Di Ling touched his mouth and found some blood on his fingers. Di Ling's mouth was bleeding. He now looked particularly ferocious. Very good, your immortal spirit is extremely rare and mysterious. But now I will show you the firmament spirit. Boom! Di Ling released some firmament blood, and Junimoshi felt like he was being oppressed by a physical strength. The entire atmosphere and fighting stage were shaking violently, shaking at the same tempo as Di Ling's heart. The firmament spirit is invisible, it uses the strength of the firmament to control the earth and sky, said Junimoshi indifferently. At that moment, he had the impression he was in another world. So you know about my spirit. You may have the immortal spirit and won't die, but now you know you cannot defeat me, said Di Ling, making huge steps. He clenched both his fists and the strength of the firmament oppressed his entire body. He then launched waves that moved towards Jun Emoshi following Di Ling's fists. Gigantic dragon strength, shouted Jun Emoshi furiously. A terrifying dragon strength emerged in the air, but it was covered by Di Ling's firmament spirit. Jun Emoshi's strength was oppressed. The firmament strength became even stronger at that moment. It seemed like there was nothing else in the world. Boom! A terrifying strength crashed onto Jun Emoshi's body that made him fly away. At the same time, a terrifying strength caught him mid-flight. Di Ling had jumped up and was prepared to strike Jun Emoshi again. He then said coldly, "I will see how long you can endure my attacks with your immortal spirit." "Why endure?" asked Jun Emoshi with an indifferent smile. He then added, "I give up." He fell down to the ground just like a falling leaf. He had lost, but he didn't care. "How come you didn't kill me even though you are insufferably arrogant and hate my immortal spirit?" asked Jun Emoshi. Then he turned around and moved back to his seat. He had lost, so what? Di Ling was indeed stronger than him, but he couldn't use Jun Emoshi as he wished. He couldn't threaten Jun Emoshi or use him as a puppet. "Did you see how strong he is?" asked Jun Emoshi to Lin Feng, still smiling. Lin Feng nodded. Di Ling was really terrifying. "If you're aware of how strong he is, I hope you can avenge me," said Jun Emoshi smiling. He had lost, but it wasn't that important to him. Losing and winning were normal in the frame battle. Nobody could be an eternal winner. There was always someone stronger. "I will do my best," said Lin Feng nodding. He then looked at Di Ling. It would be difficult to fight against him. After that battle, Di Ling was already one of the third best cultivators, and Jun Emoshi might end up ranking third or fourth. It depended on his battle against Lin Feng. Chapter 672, Duan Wudao's strength. Di Ling and Jun Emoshi had been incredible. They were both too incredible. Di Ling and his firmament spirit with his terrifying punches. How many gene of power did they fists possess? Jun Emoshi's huge dragon had even been destroyed. An authentic dragon could have been killed by Di Ling. Jun Emoshi had still lost the battle with his immortal dragon spirit and his vital energy of righteousness. The next one is Duan Wudao. His eyes were twinkling. He looked at Shueisha and said, "Get over here." Shueisha was awkwardly looking at Duan Wudao. He had already lost against Jun Emoshi and Lin Feng. He couldn't lose this time. If he did, he wouldn't even be able to finish fourth. After all, Di Ling could probably defeat him just like Lin Feng and Jun Emoshi. He had no chance to defeat Di Ling, so he had to defeat Duan Wudao. "I have to win," thought Shueisha determined. He made a step forward silently and looked at Duan Wudao. "Give up," said Duan Wudao coldly. He looked really conceited in front of Shueisha. In his eyes, Shueisha wasn't a threat. Duan Wudao made Shueisha even more nervous. He had just had the thought that he could win, but now Duan Wudao was hurting his confidence. The crowd was also surprised. Duan Wudao was arrogant and aggressive. He was probably as strong as Di Ling. He had just told Shueisha to give up very calmly, as if it was the only logical choice. There was no suspense for Duan Wudao because he already knew the result of the battle. "I still want to see how strong the Crown Prince of Shueyu is though. Why should I give up?" asked Shueisha looking glum. He felt extremely humiliated when Duan Wudao told him to give up. What a lamentable humiliation. "Huh." Duan Wudao raised his head and stared back at Shueisha. A terrifying light appeared that seemed extremely brutal and dazzling to the eyes. He had the energy of a warlord. What a terrifying warlord, thought the crowd. Duan Wudao was like Di Ling. Was he really only the Crown Prince of Shueyu? "Die!" shouted Duan Wudao. A terrifying golden warlord energy appeared. That golden energy was emitting whistling sounds as it launched toward Shueisha. The entire stadium was shaking. Shueisha was scared to face that horrible pressure. Warlord punch. Duan Wudao's fist seemed like it could destroy the planet, just like a peerless warlord. That terrifying warlord energy rose up in the air. Shueisha only sensed that his muscles were twitching. He was trying to release some corpse chi, but it was useless. His corpse chi was insignificant compared to Duan Wudao's warlord chi. The Crown Prince of Shueyu has the blood spirit of the king. Many people were shaking when they sensed Duan Wudao's chi. What a terrifying strength. Duan Wu Dao possessed Warlord Qi and had learnt the Warlord Punch? How incredible! That kind of power could only be learnt by monarchs. Duan Wu Dao was the crown prince and had the temperament of a warlord. To him, learning such a skill was absolutely normal. Boom! The Warlord Punch destroyed the corpse Qi. It didn't even have time to condense before being destroyed. Corpse spirit! Shouted Shueisha furiously. His spirit appeared and he transformed into a ghost. A terrifying putrid wind started blowing and moving forwards. The corpse Qi was moving straight towards Duan Wu Dao. Duan Wu Dao had wanted to defeat Shueisha in one punch, but he wouldn't allow that. Pointless, said Duan Wu Dao coldly and aggressively. A terrifying Warlord Punch then bombarded the atmosphere again. Then Duan Wu Dao holding some kind of strength in his hand. Suddenly, Shueisha felt extremely uncomfortable. It seemed like his putrid spirit was being squeezed by something and then sealed. His face then turned deathly pale. The situation was getting bad for him. Get lost, shouted Duan Wu Dao furiously. He immediately bombarded the putrid soul with his fist and Shueisha was projected away. Blood splashed everywhere as he was badly injured this time. Piece of shit. You made me waste my time, said Duan Wu Dao coldly. He moved back to his seat and his aggressive, violent voice was still resonating in people's heads. Even though that battle had been short, it had been incredible. Just like the kind of battle Jun Mo Shi and Di Ling could offer. Duan Wu Dao had managed to severely injure Shueisha with 2 attacks. Duan Wu Dao is terrifying. He might be the strongest cultivator at the competition, thought many people in the crowd. Some of them had thought that Duan Wu Dao was even stronger than Di Ling. He was way too strong. He had defeated Shueisha in 2 hits. They all knew how strong Shueisha was. He might end up 5th at the end of the competition, but Duan Wu Dao made him appear as a weakling with his Warlord Punch. He had even called Shueisha a piece of shit. All of them were geniuses, but there was a difference between certain geniuses too. They weren't all equally strong. For example, Duan Wu Dao was much stronger than Shueisha. Di Ling was focused on Duan Wu Dao. He would be his strongest opponent. He had always considered him as the other strongest cultivator at the great competition of Shueyu since the first time he had seen Duan Wu Dao. He had always believed that apart from him, there was nobody else to compete with. Lin Feng was awed by Duan Wu Dao. How strong was he? Duan Wu Dao was brutal and violent. He didn't kill those who didn't offend him but didn't hesitate to kill his enemies. Lin Feng would have never thought that Duan Wu Dao would be that strong. No wonder Duan Wu Ye believed in his brothers so much. Even if Lin Feng finished in the top 9, he couldn't defeat Duan Wu Dao. Duan Wu Ye perfectly knew how strong Duan Wu Dao was. The sealed door's strength. Shueisha fell to the ground as blood splashed out of his mouth. A moment before, Duan Wu Dao had punched him with the strength of the sealed doors and had made his body become real again. His ghost form was unable to reduce the strength of that punch. The competition continues, said Shui Wu Chang indifferently. He was also very surprised. Duan Wu Dao's strength was incredible. He was wondering how the battles between Duan Wu Dao, Di Ling, and Lin Feng would be. The others couldn't rival with them. Everybody was looking forward to seeing those battles. However, the other battles didn't interest the crowd anymore because only the very best made them feel excited. The winners would be the most dazzling cultivators in all of Shueyu. They would draw everybody's attention. At the end of the rankings, Yu Xiao won against the dead tree. Then there was also Qing Meng Xian and Yun Fei Yang. Yun Fei Yang was particularly strong with his force of the earth and sky. After that round it was finally Lin Feng's turn again. This time, Lin Feng could only challenge 3 people, Di Ling, Jun Mo Shi and Duan Wu Dao. Who would he choose? Lin Feng, said Jun Mo Shi suddenly. Lin Feng then turned his head and looked at him. Lin Feng, Duan Wu Dao defeated Shueisha. He's not weaker than Di Ling, he's an incredible genius. I wouldn't have thought that such monstrous cultivators as you and Duan Wu Dao would appear in Shueyu. You can even put pressure on me. I already lost 1 battle which interrupted my series of victories. Now I will give up and let you continue. What do you think? Asked Jun Mo Shi. He had already lost a battle, so his statistics didn't look perfect anymore. Besides, Duan Wu Dao would be extremely difficult to defeat. Jun Emoshi was ready to help Lin Feng stay healthy for his last battles. Chapter 673. Di Ling and Duan Wu Dao. Lin Feng was speechless. He knew what Jun Emoshi meant. He just had to nod and Jun Emoshi would offer him a victory. Then Lin Feng would just have to fight against Di Ling and Duan Wu Dao. He wanted Lin Feng to keep his determination to fight and struggle for victory. Lin Feng looked at Jun Emoshi and nodded. Jun Emoshi nodded and smiled. He had no hope to become the first one anyway. Di Ling and Duan Wu Dao would probably struggle for victory, but Jun Emoshi still hoped that Lin Feng would dazzle. Alright, Lin Feng, challenge me now, said Jun Emoshi gently. The crowd was baffled. Jun Emoshi was asking Lin Feng to challenge him? Okay, said Lin Feng, nodding. I choose Jun Emoshi. Lin Feng wanted to fight against Jun Emoshi? The crowd didn't understand. They hadn't heard Lin Feng and Jun Emoshi's conversation a moment before. Jun Emoshi smiled. He didn't go to the fighting stage. Instead he said, I forfeit? Forfeit. Jun Emoshi was giving up. The crowd was astonished. They obviously knew why he was giving up. He wanted to offer Lin Feng a free win and one more chance to win the competition. Lin Feng only had to fight against Di Ling and Duan Wu Dao now. Jun Emoshi was allowing Lin Feng to be one of the 3 best cultivators at the competition. Jun Emoshi and Tang Yu were both looking at Lin Feng. They had both offered him a free win. Finally, it was Di Ling's turn. He had no choice. He had to fight against Duan Wu Dao. Jun Emoshi had told Lin Feng to choose him, so Di Ling couldn't challenge Lin Feng anymore. The moment Di Ling moved to the center of the fighting stage, a gigantic hurricane spread in the air. Everybody had been waiting for this. Di Ling was considered the strongest young man at the competition. Many people were sure that Di Ling would finish first and would be the most dazzling cultivator of the competition. Duan Wu Dao was extremely brutal and violent. Since he had won against Shueisha, people considered him as the second best cultivator. He had defeated Shueisha in 2 strikes. That was incredible. However, some people also believed the opposite was true. Duan Wu Dao was gaining more and more prestige. He was the genius of Shueyu, a small country belonging to Dragon Mountain. He was making his country dazzle. Now, the decisive battle was about to start. Who would win? Many people's hearts were pounding. Duan Wu Dao arrived in front of Di Ling. Di Ling was the strongest opponent Duan Wu Dao was going to fight. That battle was going to be decisive for them. If I defeat you, I will rank first and become the strongest cultivator at the great competition of Shueyu, said Di Ling indifferently. After Duan Wu Dao, he only had to fight against Lin Feng, who was no challenge. I will finish first, said Duan Wu Dao calmly. He had the warlord Qi. He was going to win the competition and reach the clouds. The victory would be for him alone, Duan Wu Dao. Let's fight, said Di Ling, releasing some firmament energy that dashed to the skies. He only wanted to dazzle at that moment. Let's fight, shouted Duan Wu Dao furiously. The qi of both fighters seemed like they could exterminate the planet. It seemed like deities could respect Di Ling for his firmament qi, but Duan Wu Dao seemed like a deity with his warlord qi. What a terrifying and brutal qi. This battle is going to be incredible, thought the crowd. They were drooling with anticipation. In their eyes, the winner of that battle would be the most dazzling cultivator at the great competition of Shueyu. Fist of the firmament, shouted Di Ling furiously. A terrifying energy dashed to the skies and rolled in the air. The pressure was gigantic, bringing us strong winds and powerful energies with it. Warlord punch, shouted Duan Wu Dao just as aggressively. His warlord fist was terrifying. It seemed like he could squeeze the atmosphere. He was moving straight towards Di Ling. Boom. A terrifying light covered the 2 fighters. Explosions resonated in the air, along with Duan Wu Dao and Di Ling's heartbeats. A white color and a golden color collided and turned into an incredible beam of light. After some incredible lights illuminated the atmosphere, the 2 fighters moved away from each other and collided again. The crowd couldn't even follow them with their eyes. Boom, 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 boom. A terrifying hurricane spread in the air. The crowd only saw 2 lights lacerate the atmosphere. Their fists kept colliding over and over again. The two silhouettes were in the air and dazzling lights were everywhere. Explosions continued to sound. The two of them then separated again and stared at each other this time. They both looked extremely self-confident, like heroes. "You didn't disappoint me, Duan Wu Dao, but I'm still going to win," said Di Ling as sure as before. He then raised both his hands and a terrifying firmament energy spread in the air. A vortex appeared and the atmosphere was twitching. Di Ling was controlling the space again. Even Duan Wu Dao was twitching as if he had been about to break along with the atmosphere. "Di Ling, you have the firmament blood and the firmament spirit. You understand firmament intent and can control the atmosphere. However, is it that easy for you to win? The atmosphere is not yours," shouted Duan Wu Dao sharply. He released some more warlord chi and all around him appeared some seal chi. The atmosphere suddenly stopped twitching around him. "Die!" shouted Duan Wu Dao furiously. The atmosphere around Di Ling also stopped twitching and a seal strength locked the atmosphere. They are both so terrifying. Di Ling had the power of the firmament, Duan Wu Dao had the strength of the seals. They could both control or lock the atmosphere and thus influence their environment. Di Ling looked glum. What a terrifying seal strength. Duan Wu Dao was much stronger than what he had expected. "Warlord punch!" shouted Duan Wu Dao furiously. The seal strength and the warlord punch shot out towards Di Ling at an incredible speed. It seemed like time had stopped. "Firmament destruction!" shouted Di Ling while raising his fist. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. The firmament looked like it was going to get annihilated, and the terrifying warlord punch also got crushed. Only warlord chi was left. Boom! Another explosion sounded in the air. This time, Di Ling was projected backwards and looked even more furious. "Very good, Duan Wu Dao, you made me move back a step. Now I will show you the precipice of the firmament blood," said Di Ling coldly. A terrifying blood strength started fluctuating in the air. A powerful chi emerged and surrounded his body. The chi looked like it was boiling. He had broken through to the very top of the 9th Shen Qi layer. His chi of the top of the 9th Shen Qi layer was terrifying. How scary! The crowd was stunned. They had never thought that any of the geniuses at the competition would have broken through to the very top of the 9th Shen Qi layer. Firmament destruction. At that moment, a new fist appeared and bombarded the atmosphere. "Warlord punch!" shouted Duan Wu Dao looking glum. His punch was terrifying but it disappeared. Boom! Another terrifying strength then landed on Duan Wu Dao's body which made him groan and move back. However, his warlord chi was condensing. "Sealed doors, appear!" shouted Duan Wu Dao. His voice sounded like it came from an ancient time. Suddenly an ancient chi invaded the atmosphere. Chapter 674. Last two battles, boom boom boom. Terrifying sounds echoed in the night. It seemed like time-space doors coming from remote ages were opening. Then they appeared in the air around Di Ling and surrounded his body. Everybody raised their heads and saw 8 sealed doors in the air. The seal strength they were emitting was terrifying. According to the rumors, the Crown Prince of Shuiyu has the sealed door spirit. The rumors are true then. According to the rumors, the sealed door's spirit is monstrously powerful. Thought the crowd when they saw those doors. Those sealed doors looked terrifying and their strength was monumental. Di Ling raised his head and saw 8 sealed doors. In Shuiyu, it was said that the strongest cultivators had 9 sealed doors. Duan Wu Dao already had 8. 9 sealed doors was the highest number the soul could accept. Duan Wu Dao had already broken through to the 9th Shen Qi layer. He had extremely high natural abilities. "Di Ling, with my sealed doors you have no chance," said Duan Wu Dao coldly. His warlord chi was more and more terrifying. "Even if you have the sealed door spirit, you cannot stop my firmament spirit," said Di Ling looking even colder. His force and chi had already reached an incredible volume. "We will see if it can't block your spirit, but in any case I can seal your body." Duan Wuya joined his hands and shouted violently, "Seal!" In a flash, the 8 sealed doors moved at the same time and turned into a pitch-black light which emitted rumbling sounds. It seemed like the doors were about to penetrate into Di Ling's body. "Firmament blood!" shouted Di Ling. A terrifying firmament blood dashed to the skies and blocked the sealed doors. It was clear to him that if the sealed doors penetrated into his body and sealed him, his spirit and cultivation would be in danger, and maybe even his life. Kacha! A terrifying sound emerged in the air. One of the sealed doors had broke, but the 7 others were still there and still surrounded his body. Di Ling was going insane. His struggling was making all those doors shake violently. It seemed like they could seal his body and his firmament strength. "Break!" shouted Di Ling violently. A terrifying firmament strength emerged as another door broke, turned into a light beam, and then disappeared. He could make the doors break with his incredible strength. "No, it won't happen," said Duan Wudao. He rose up in the air and started spinning. He lowered his head and then threw himself at Di Ling at full speed. His terrifying warlord spirit turned into a brutal hurricane. Duan Wudao was as fast as lightning. Di Ling raised his head and looked at Duan Wudao. His eyes were bloodshot like he was tired. "Die, die, die, die." Di Ling shouted "die" once and it resonated and echoed in the sky. The firmament chi then regained its intensity. He was using his maximal strength of the 9th Shen Chi layer. "Seal!" shouted Duan Wudao furiously. A terrifying seal strength rose up that seemed like it could seal anything. He stretched his hands and crackling sounds spread in the air. Some energies were being destroyed. Duan Wudao sensed a terrifying pressure on his body. "Break!" roared Di Ling furiously. He sounded like an animal. His blood chi was dashing to the skies. The firmament blood was fighting the firmament. Whistling sounds were hurting people's ears. What a scene! Boom, 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 boom. Explosions seemed unending. The sealed door's spirit was broken by Di Ling. His exceptional strength was astonishing. Die! However, this time Duan Wudao moved and an incredible amount of warlord chi crashed onto Di Ling's body. It seemed like an infinite number of warlord punches were crashing onto Di Ling's body. There were unceasing sounds as his body was pulverized. The fighting stage had some incredible fissures forming. The 2 of them disappeared and the crowd could only sense the ground shaking under their feet. Duan Wudao wasn't going to give a single opportunity to Di Ling. A silhouette streaked through the sky and then landed on the fighting stage. Everybody was stunned. Duan Wudao. He was going to be the final winner. A genius from Shuiyu. Di Ling quickly came out of the ground. His chi was revolving violently as his clothes were torn apart. He looked ferocious as blood dripped from his mouth. Di Ling had lost. He had never thought that he would lose. He had lost against Duan Wudao. Duan Wudao would be the real champion and Di Ling would end up second. "Duan Wudao, I will defeat you someday and regain face," said Di Ling. He returned back to his seat and then sat down cross-legged. He was starting to heal his wounds. Even though he didn't look affected, his internal organs had been badly injured. Duan Wudao had crushed him internally. Di Ling had no strength left, which is why he hadn't been able to continue their battle. "I will wait for you," said Duan Wudao indifferently. He then moved back to his seat and closed his eyes. It hadn't felt good to have his spirit attacked violently as it had. Di Ling was also monstrously powerful. Phew! The crowd took a deep breath. The great competition of Shuiyu was astonishing. Duan Wudao was going to be the great champion. He was going to end up as the strongest champion ever. Di Ling was only going to be the second, and Lin Feng, thanks to Junimo Shi, would finish third. Di Ling and Duan Wudao's battle had been so incredible that the other battles could only be boring. Maybe the battles between Lin Feng and Di Ling or Duan Wudao would be a little entertaining. While waiting for Lin Feng's turn, Duan Wudao and Di Ling remained calm. Shui Wuchang commenced the remaining fights. The other battles were taking place slowly, one after the other. Junimo Shi seemed like he was going to finish fourth, Shueisha fifth, Tang Yu 6th, Ling Shao 7th, Yun Fei Yang 8th, the Dead Tree 9th, and then Qing Meng Xn. The 11th would be Yu Shao Shao. Out of the 8 most outstanding geniuses, 3 had ended up with miserable positions. Yu Mo had died, the Dead Tree and Yu Shao Shao had disappeared from the top 8 rankings. Lin Feng, Tang Yu and Yun Fei Yang had replaced them. Now, there were only Duan Wudao and Di Ling. Everything depended on their battle against Lin Feng, but the crowd was sure about that the ranking list they had pieced together would hold. Duan Wu Dao would be first, Di Ling second and Lin Feng third. Slowly, the night became clearer as sun rose up slowly. Everybody had fought, only 2 battles were left. Jun Mo she had given up against Duan Wu Dao, only 2 battles were left. Lin Feng against Di Ling and Lin Feng against Duan Wu Dao. The entire area around the fighting stage was silent. One could hear the rustling sound of the leaves on the ground and the atmosphere seemed dreary. Lin Feng was calmly standing there, as if the competition had nothing to do with him. The crowd admired Lin Feng for remaining silent. Surprisingly, he had accepted Jun Nemoshi's proposition to struggle. He was going to try and fight. He was going to fight against Duan Wu Dao and Di Ling. He managed to remain calm knowing he was facing those two. A terrifying energy emerged out of Di Ling's body. He opened his eyes in which sharp lights twinkled. At the same time, Duan Wu Dao also opened his eyes. Even though he hadn't been as badly injured as Di Ling, his spirit had still been badly affected. Di Ling had bombarded him violently. Therefore, they both needed a long time to recover. They opened their eyes. Finally. The battles were going to start, thought the crowd. Even if the result of the battles were already sure, they were still impatient to see them. Would they be surprised? Chapter 675. Lin Feng vs. Di Ling. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng. Who would he choose first for the 2 last battles? Lin Feng, you choose, said Shui Wuchang. I choose him, said Lin Feng, pointing at Di Ling. Lin Feng looked calm and serene. Since Duan Wu Dao had won against Di Ling, Lin Feng should start with Di Ling. It would be easier to fight against him than Duan Wu Dao. Di Ling was staring at Lin Feng. His eyes were twinkling coldly. Is it necessary to continue the battles? Asked Di Ling indifferently. Even though he had lost against Duan Wu Dao, he hadn't stopped being arrogant. How could Lin Feng fight against him? If Di Ling fought against Lin Feng, he would lose face. In Di Ling's eyes, those 2 battles were not necessary. It was pointless to continue. Lin Feng had already reached the highest point he could reach. You used to think you were the strongest cultivator at the great competition of Shuiyu. What about now? Said Lin Feng. Di Ling narrowed his eyes. Even though Lin Feng's voice was absolutely normal, he was making fun of him. He had thought he would finish first, so why did he think he would finish second now? Di Ling couldn't afford talking big like this, so he had to fight. Excellent. Since you want to fight, I will fight. I will show everyone here what the expression an ant trying to shake a tree means. I will show everybody how you overestimate your abilities. Then Di Ling jumped forwards and landed not so far in front of Lin Feng. His terrifyingly brutal chi dashed to the skies and moved towards Lin Feng. His firmament energy had once more appeared. Di Ling stretched his hands and grabbed some parts of the atmosphere. He could control it. A terrifying vortex appeared and moved towards Lin Feng. It seemed like that vortex could kill Lin Feng right there. An ant wants to fight? How ridiculous, yelled Di Ling, clenching his fists in the atmosphere. The air pressure immediately pressured Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng had the impression he was going to break into pieces. The atmosphere kept twitching and people saw hallucinations. The crowd was shivering. Di Ling was still monstrously strong. Maybe when he was fighting against Du Wu Dao, they hadn't realized how strong he was because of the circumstances. But facing Lin Feng was a different story. It seemed like he could kill him using the tip of his finger. That kind of battle was terrifying and perilous. Lin Feng's arms slowly and messily rose up in the air. He slowly put a hand on his back. A metallic sound emerged in the air as his bloodthirsty sword appeared. It was diffusing its usual blood-red light. It then slowly rose up in the air oppressively. Clang! A terrifying sword chi rose and emitted whistling sounds. The oppressive chi released by Di Ling was becoming weaker. The sword intent was starting to become more intense. With Lin Feng's willpower and intent, the sword chi was gaining leverage. Firmament! Shouted Di Ling furiously. He clenched his fists. He seemed to be in perfect fusion with the atmosphere. The pressure was incredibly intense on Lin Feng's body. Could Lin Feng resist Di Ling's firmament intent? Just when Lin Feng sensed all those oppressive energies, his sword chi reached the first level of intent, then the second level, then the third level, then the fourth. T sword chi was emitting incredible sounds. It seemed like there were many swords suddenly, but it also seemed it was still increasing. That sword chi was getting even more intense. Die. A terrifying light appeared in the sky, red like blood and moving as fast as lightning. It even lacerated the atmosphere in two as if the world was a loaf of bread. The red light then lacerated the firmament. Lin Feng's sword intent was level 5 at that moment. Everyone's hearts were pounding violently. Lin Feng's sword intent used to be level 4. He had used a level 4 sword intent to cut off Ling Zhao's arm before. He must have hidden his strength again. His sword intent could even lacerate the firmament intent. Everything under the sword intent cut like butter. Nothing could stop it. Lin Feng's sword intent was level 5. With his bloodthirsty sword, things were just starting to get serious. Di Ling frowned. In the end, Lin Feng was still weaker than him. Di Ling moved back and grabbed the atmosphere. His firmament intent continued to oppress the entire atmosphere, especially that red light. A terrifying pure chi was insanely moving in the atmosphere. The earth and sky were emitting rumbling sounds. The red lights were bombarded. Finally, the red lights were destroyed. Di Ling raised his head and realized that Lin Feng was in the air and was descending with his bloodthirsty sword. Once again, he was releasing level 5 sword intent and it seemed like nothing else existed. Die! Shouted Di Ling furiously. He rose up in the air and his firmament intent attacked the sword light. He released some more pure chi that was even more powerful than Lin Feng's. Second sword, said Lin Feng. He was moving like the wind, and at that moment his sword was moving towards Di Ling's throat. I will finish you, shouted Di Ling while clenching his fists even harder. A terrifying oppressive energy moved towards the sword energy again. Di Ling's hands contained some terrifying pure chi oppressed the bloodthirsty sword as well. He wanted to stop that red sword. Third sword. A blood light appeared again and the atmosphere seemed like it was filled with bloodthirsty swords. An infinite emotionless energy moved towards Di Ling like a rain of arrows. They wanted to pierce through his body. Fuck off, shouted Di Ling like an animal. He propelled both his hands forwards at the same time. An energy as monumental as a mountain moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng had the feeling that an actual mountain was weighing on his shoulders. He had the feeling that he was suffocating under it. Fourth sword. Lin Feng unsheathed another sword. That sword seemed normal. Its energy wasn't dashing to the skies. It immediately moved towards that mountain-like oppressive energy. After the collision, that terrifying mountain of oppressive energy collapsed in 4 different directions. Die. Lin Feng's bloodthirsty sword didn't stop moving as it followed his movements. A seemingly infinite bloodthirsty sword shadows moved in the atmosphere. They were blotting out the sky and covering up the earth. The crowd couldn't even see where the sword was anymore. They could only see an incredibly dazzling sword light. The earth and sky were filled with swords. How strong? Who said Lin Feng couldn't fight? Thought several people in the crowd, shaking their heads. His sword intent was level 5, how incredible! Piss off, roared Di Ling like an animal again. The firmament energy was shaking insanely, blotting out the sky and covering up the earth. The terrifying amount of sword energy finally disappeared and the curtain of swords were unceasingly being destroyed. 13th sword, said Lin Feng in a solemn way. Immediately after, the crowd saw a terrifying red light. The crowd could only see the terrifying amount of sword light fade away as the atmosphere became normal again. Di Ling lowered his head and stretched out his hand. He touched his waist and found blood. When the crowd was astonished to see blood, Di Ling was injured. He had been injured by Lin Feng's 13th sword. Di Ling raised his head and looked at Lin Feng. He looked like he couldn't believe his eyes. Injured me? Asked Di Ling in a low voice. Lin Feng had surprisingly injured him. I'm just a weak ant trying to defeat a gigantic tree, said Lin Feng indifferently yet mockingly. Di Ling had told him he was an ant, but now Lin Feng was using it to mock him. Di Ling's was extremely strong. The 13th sword had been filled with level 5 intent, but it had only injured him. "You will regret that," said Di Ling. A terrifying firmament strength then invaded the atmosphere again. His strength had reached the very top of the 9th Xianqi layer at that moment. "Regret? Why would I regret anything?" said Lin Feng, firmly holding his bloodthirsty sword. He still looked calm and serene. Just like Di Ling, his strength was also increasing. Boom! A terrifying strength invaded the atmosphere, 8th Xianqi layer. Lin Feng had broken through to the 8th Xianqi layer. The crowd was astonished, their hearts were hurting from the excitement. Lin Feng had broken through to the 8th Xianqi layer and his intent was level 5, that was Lin Feng. Chapter 676, Tearing Firmament Energy. There were many people considering Lin Feng since the beginning of the great competition of Shuiyu, when he had only broken through to the 5th Xianqi layer. He didn't have a terrifying sword intent and people didn't really believe in him. In the evil area, he had then drawn people's attention because of UMO. Many people had thought that Lin Feng would be eliminated much sooner, but with his extraordinary abilities he had managed to make it so far. Step by step until now, he had broken through to the 7th Xianqi layer, and then his sword intent had reached level 5, and then he had injured Di Ling and had broken through to the 8th Xianqi layer. With his determination, Lin Feng could lacerate the atmosphere using his bloodthirsty sword. He could oppress the atmosphere and make people suffocate. Lin Feng had even managed to kill Yuemo and cut one of Ling Zhao's arms. He had also defeated Shueisha. All those people were extremely strong, but Lin Feng could defeat them, and now the decisive battles had started. Lin Feng's strength was unruly. Those who were friends with Lin Feng were particularly astonished, their souls were shaking. The Yu clan, the Wanshou sect, the people from Tianfeng, the Yu clan, and even Shueisha and Ling Xiao were all staring at Lin Feng in amazement and fear. At that moment, Lin Feng looked incredibly strong. He was becoming one of the strongest cultivators at the great competition of Shuiyu. With his strength, Lin Feng could defeat cultivators of the 9th Xianqi layer, he could destroy the Yu clan, the Wanshou sect, and so forth very easily. How would they survive? The Yu clan and the Wanshou sect were terrified. They used to think that it would take Lin Feng many years to become a monstrous cultivator. Unfortunately for them, the far future was happening much sooner than expected. Now Lin Feng could go back to Shuiyu and destroy the Yu clan and the Wanshou sect easily. Besides, Lin Feng would really do it with his temperament. He hadn't forgotten anything, the holy courtyard of Shuiyu and the others. They had always hated Lin Feng and all those who had tried to kill him had failed. Now that Lin Feng had become so strong, would he let them off? Yu Qingshan's eyes were twitching, his white hair became even whiter. His face looked even more desperate and desolate. How monstrous. He had always focused on Yu Tianming, he had always thought Yu Tianming would become monster of a cultivator. If he had raised Lin Feng and Yu Tianming next to each other, he would have realized that Yu Tianming wasn't that gifted. And now Lin Feng wasn't fighting in the name of the Yu clan, people considered him representing Yangzhou City. He was dazzling at the competition, he could compete against Di Ling and Duan Wudao. Di Ling watched as Lin Feng broke through to the 8th Xianqi layer. His firmament energy was becoming more and more powerful. From the look of his pupils, it was possible to see that he didn't despise Lin Feng anymore. 8th Xianqi layer. Alright, no problem, very good, said Di Ling. His blood was boiling. The energy of his spirit spread in the air and it seemed like the firmament was going to be destroyed. He shook his hands and it seemed like the earth and sky belonged to him. The intent of the earth and sky were oppressing Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng firmly held his bloodthirsty sword, which was becoming stronger. He then slowly started walking. On the ground appeared marks left by the bloodthirsty sword. The sword intent was cutting the atmosphere. A cut appeared everywhere that Lin Feng stepped. His sword seemed to be indestructible, it seemed like he was alone in the world. The crowd watched him walking towards Di Ling. They were not sure, but they had the feeling that the crevices and fissures were left behind by Lin Feng. Boom! Di Ling also made a step forwards and the ground started shaking again. A terrifying pure qi and firmament intent fell down from the sky and oppressed Lin Feng. It seemed like Di Ling wanted to crush Lin Feng's body. It seemed like the entire planet was going to collapse. What a terrifying force! People's hearts were pounding violently. They could sense Di Ling's pressure from very far away. It was making their heads feel heavy. They had the feeling that something was stuck in their throat. Of course, Lin Feng's sword had the same effect. With his sword intent, he could destroy the firmament intent. Who will win? The crowd was having difficulty see Lin Feng when he penetrated into the firmament energy. It seemed like he was farther and farther away from them. His silhouette looked sharp, but then they heard some light stepping sounds. Suddenly, they had a hallucination that they couldn't see Lin Feng anymore. Instead of Lin Feng, there was only a sword. He had fused with his sword, and with the earth, Lin Feng had disappeared. There was only a blood-red sword illuminating the world. There were no cracking or tearing sounds. There were no whistling sounds. There was a deadly energy and a red light, and that energy felt extremely sharp. The crowd felt like they were going to die when they sensed that terrifying energy. They had the feeling that the terrifying blood-red light was going to destroy them. At the moment when everything became calm again, two silhouettes appeared on the fighting stage. Di Ling was motionless. Lin Feng was still holding his bloodthirsty sword whose tip was touching the ground. There was some dust around. Neither of them were emitting a sound. The atmosphere was oppressive. Is it finished? The crowd hadn't seen anything. Who won? They just wanted to know what had just happened. The energies had almost killed them. A strong wind was still blowing and brushing away on the crowd, but there was no sound and no odor. Something is dripping, said someone, breaking the silence. Then they followed the direction where the sound had come from, and they were astonished again. They saw several red drops near Di Ling's feet. Something was dripping from his body. Even though it was small, it was significant. Di Ling got injured again. It's dripping, blood is dripping. The crowd was astonished. Blood continued dripping. Lin Feng moved, but it was to sheath his bloodthirsty sword on his back. An ant? I managed to destroy your firmament energy, said Lin Feng indifferently. He looked extremely calm. Everyone was silent. He had won. Lin Feng had won with that sword. Lin Feng had managed to defeat Di Ling. A terrifying pure qi started rotating around Di Ling's body. He wanted to cure his wounds and stop the bleeding. He moved back to his seat without saying a word, and then sat down. Di Ling's actions proved that Lin Feng had won. The crowd couldn't believe their eyes. Lin Feng had surprisingly defeated Di Ling. Lin Feng wasn't third anymore, he was second. If Lin Feng defeated Duan Wudao, he would earn the first place at the competition. The exception, the total exception. To everyone's great surprise, Lin Feng had managed to make it that far. Nobody would have believed it. The crowd remembered back to when Lin Feng had obtained the first jade key. Was it only luck? At that moment, Lin Feng was about to start the very last battle of the competition to become the most dazzling competitor. Chapter 677. The final battle. The crowd got over their previous surprise and became excited again. They were wondering what would happen during the last battle. Their blood was almost boiling. They had considered Lin Feng an insect without importance the first time they saw him. They had never thought such a thing would happen in the end. Maybe that 1,000 years after, Lin Feng would stand at the top of Shuiyu with his bloodthirsty sword. Maybe Lin Feng's grandchildren would even say proudly that that sword belonged to their ancestor, and with it Lin Feng rose. Lin Feng from Shuiyu. The crowd was looking at that young man. He looked proud. They would always remember his name and how astonishing he had been. Lin Feng was a miracle. Then they turned their heads around and looked at Duan Wudao. He had calmly observed everything, but he who always looked aggressive, violent and cruel, didn't look that calm anymore. He had always thought that his strongest opponent would be Di Ling. He had never thought that Lin Feng would defeat Di Ling. It meant that he wasn't finished. There was one more real battle for him to fight. He had never thought that his final opponent would be Lin Feng, his compatriot. In the air, Shui Wuchang looked down at Lin Feng and smiled. How rare! Two people from Shuiyu were going to fight each other for the final battle of the competition. Shuiyu was sure to be the most dazzling country at the great competition of Shuiyu. In the past, A country under the jurisdiction of an empire had never even obtained the third place at the competition. And now, the first and second had already been obtained by two cultivators from Shuiyu. That was mind-blowing. Lin Feng, how long do you need to rest? Asked Shui Wuchang. Lin Feng had just fought against Di Ling and had used lots of energy. If he wanted, he could have a rest. The last battle was the most important fight for him, so he couldn't just gamble and continue hastily. Lin Feng could choose himself, he could rest 3 or even 5 days. The crowd looked at Lin Feng and asked themselves, when would the final battle happen? I don't need to rest. Let's fight now, said Lin Feng. The crowd was astonished. Lin Feng didn't need to rest. He was going to fight right away. After fighting against Di Ling, Lin Feng didn't need to rest? He wasn't even a little bit tired? Lin Feng, you need to rest. Don't worry yourself, said Shui Wuchang. He didn't approve of Lin Feng's decision. Duan Wudao had defeated Di Ling, and he was able to deploy 8 sealed doors and seal people's bodies and souls. That kind of seal was almost impossible to remove. Don't worry, I didn't use much energy a moment ago, said Lin Feng facing Shui Wuchang and smiling. Everybody was astonished. They all exchanged strange expressions. A moment before, Lin Feng had defeated Di Ling, but he hadn't used much energy? Wasn't he humiliating Di Ling? Di Ling opened his eyes. He didn't want to observe Duan Wudao and Lin Feng's battle. He wanted to see the battle with his own eyes. What would be the result? Would they fight? He really wanted to see the finale. Duan Wudao had also defeated Di Ling and Lin Feng had also defeated him. Who was stronger between Lin Feng and Duan Wudao? All right, since you insist, you can fight immediately, said Shui Wuchang. He didn't try to prevent Lin Feng anymore. Besides, Duan Wudao immediately jumped forwards and started walking slowly. He was looking at Lin Feng. I know that you want to get married with my sister, right? Said Duan Wudao. Duan Wudao was the crown prince of Shuiyu, and even though he only devoted his life to practicing cultivation and seldom taken care of external affairs, he knew about important events such as his sister's wedding. He also knew that Lin Feng had destroyed the holy courtyard of Shuiyu. He also knew that Duan Wuya had told Lin Feng to challenge Duan Wudao so he could marry Duan Xanyi. Even though he knew all those things, he had never personally appeared. Because he had dedicated his entire life to cultivation, he was now at the top of the fighting stage at the great competition of Shuiyu. He could stand there proudly where everybody admired him. Caring about other things would have been pointless, so he didn't care about them. He had been preparing for that final battle at the great competition of Shuiyu for such a long time. The terribly violent and brutal crown prince of Shuiyu had seldom shown his real face. The crowd was confused when the crowd heard Duan Wudao. There was something else going on between Lin Feng and Duan Wudao's family? Lin Feng wanted to get married with Duan Wudao's sister, the princess of Shuiyu? I am really surprised to have you as my final opponent. We are here together and we are both from Shuiyu. That is an honor for our country, that is glory. However, the final winner of the great competition of Shuiyu will be me. You will have no chance to defeat me. You don't need to listen to Duan Wuya, you can marry my sister and then we'll go and conquer the continent of the 9 clouds together, said Duan Wudao. He had wild ambitions and the soul of a conqueror, but he was so nice to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was so young and was able to defeat Di Ling, he could definitely conquer the continent of the 9 clouds. I don't need you to agree, I don't need Duan Wuya's authorization either. I will struggle to do my best and finish first. Then when I go back to Shuiyu, nobody will dare offend me, Duan Xanyi will welcome me with open arms. Everybody will congratulate me and I will share my glory with Duan Xanyi, said Lin Feng indifferently. Since he was there already, he was definitely going to try and finish first. Nothing could stop him anymore. The glory wouldn't be his alone, he would share this glory with his mother, his father and all the ones he loved. Lin Feng wanted that glory. Duan Xanyi and Lin Feng would get married and live happily in love. If he went back to Shuiyu after winning the competition, who would criticize him, who would offend him? Who would stand in his way? He wanted to finish first and he would do his best to finish first. That girl, Xanyi, must be really happy, whispered Qing Chan. She said that with a radiant smile on her face. She looked sweet and gentle. Since you are from Shuiyu, you know my temperament is bad. I easily lose temper, said Duan Wu Dao. His energies were becoming denser. He was staring down Lin Feng. The Crown Prince Duan Wu Dao, unruly, good to those who are good but will kill those who are bad to him. However, you first have to defeat me before you start talking big. Don't act like Di Ling. If you lost then you'd lose face, said Lin Feng indifferently. Di Ling had threatened him and the results had been catastrophic. Let's fight then, shouted Duan Wu Dao violently. A terrifying warlord Qi emerged out of his body and attacked Lin Feng. At the same time, he closed the space between himself and Lin Feng. A terrifying golden color appeared all around Duan Wu Dao. Violent warlord punch. Duan Wu Dao raised both his fists at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was standing there, calmly. Sword cultivators were calm and serene. With his sword, he could annihilate everything. Die. His sword rose up in the air and some level 5 intent invaded the entire atmosphere. The red light was dazzling as it moved straight towards Duan Wu Dao. Seal, shouted Duan Wu Dao. He immediately released some sealed doors intent. The qi was getting more and more violent. It seemed like the red lights were being stopped by those energies and were becoming weaker. Lin Feng's sword cultivation was incredible. With his sword intent he had managed to lacerate Di Ling's firmament blood energy. Di Ling had a firmament spirit and understood firmament intent but had still lost. Duan Wu Dao had 8 sealed doors and understood sealed doors intent. The atmosphere seemed to only possess sealed doors energies. Lin Feng looked emotionless as his bloodthirsty sword rotated and a red light turned into a vortex. Whatever went in that vortex seemed to disappear. Disappear. The warlord fist crashed into the sword light. Duan Wu Dao's sleeves were shaking. A terrifying sealed doors energy oppressed Lin Feng's sword. However, Lin Feng's sword wasn't moving back. It was moving forwards with indomitable will. Subtle sounds were spreading in the air and emitting whistling sounds. Everything was getting destroyed. Even the sealed doors were being destroyed. Chapter 678, Sealed Doors. Duan Wu Dao looked disheartened. Lin Feng was going to become a monstrously strong sword cultivator. Lin Feng's sword intent was level 5 and each of his attacks using the bloodthirsty sword were terrifying. Duan Wu Dao had seen Lin Feng's speed during his battle against Di Ling. Lin Feng was extremely fast as lightning. Even if Duan Wu Dao was remained self-confident, he didn't despise Lin Feng. Duan Wu Dao made a step forwards as his sealed doors moved into seal Lin Feng. Back punch, shouted Duan Wu Dao. His punch covered the earth and moved towards Lin Feng. Duan Wu Dao trampled on the ground and he rose up in the air. His warlord qi was terrifying. He then shouted violently, "Seal!" Lin Feng was surrounded by sealed doors. He was backed into a corner. The blood-red sword was going insane, annihilating the different punches. Lin Feng raised his head and saw Duan Wu Dao's warlord punches falling down from the sky without limits, as if the gods wanted to crush him. A terrifying sword energy rose up and Lin Feng's entire body turned into a sword. There was only sword qi surrounding him, which was destroying the endless warlord punches. Lin Feng moved and his bloodthirsty sword followed. Lin Feng's 13th bloodthirsty sword attack was extremely fast. Lin Feng's body looked like a beam of light. Seal! Boom boom! Explosions sounded and then the two people descended down to the stage. Duan Wu Dao moved back a few steps and stretched his hand out. In it appeared something black. It was some sword qi which had hurt him. Lin Feng looked at Duan Wu Dao who was still releasing some terrifying brutal qi. No wonder you were able to defeat Di Ling. You've broken through to the 8th Xian Qi layer and your sword intent is level 5. People of the Xian Qi layer cannot defeat you anymore. Only someone with Tian Qi layer strength can defeat you now. However, I am an exception and I will not give you any opportunity. Duan Wu Dao then released an incredible ancient sealed doors energy which seemed to come from remote ages. 8 doors appeared in the air in full antiquity. Those 8 doors were incredible. They contained such terrifying sealed door energy. Sealed doors? Could Lin Feng resist against those 8 sealed doors? Di Ling had used incredible strength to break free from those 8 sealed doors. He had fought to break them, however, they had worn him down and he lost. Now, how would Lin Feng deal with those sealed doors? Lin Feng looked at those 8 doors and a terrifying fire emerged out of his body and rose up in the air. He was using his entire strength of the 8th Xianqi layer. The crowd was staring at Lin Feng's fire. Would Lin Feng be able to defeat those 8 sealed doors with fire? How was that possible? Di Ling had used a monstrous amount of strength to break through those doors. How would Lin Feng be able to destroy them? It was impossible, he would never be able to break those doors. His fire made the ambient temperature rise drastically. Lin Feng was moving back, it seemed like he was trying to gain some time. "Are you trying to escape?" asked Duan Wudao smiling. He then shouted furiously, "Seal!" Then the 8 doors turned into 8 black beams of light and shot towards Lin Feng. "Black Lotus," whispered Lin Feng in a deep voice. He condensed his entire fire qi. The qi in his body started circulating insanely. Lin Feng then released some incredible deadly energy. The crowd only saw Lin Feng raise both his hands and a black lotus appeared there. It was pitch black, gloomy, and filled with deadly energies. Everything was happening extremely fast. It was so fast that people couldn't see clearly. The 8 sealed doors moved towards Lin Feng's body and Lin Feng opened his hands. He then shouted one word, "Destroy." Boom! At the moment when the 8 sealed doors fell down, a terrifying deadly energy spread in the air. The crowd only saw a pitch-black light in which Lin Feng drowned under. The entire crowd suddenly had the sensation that they were going to suffocate and die. The sealed doors were burning in the atmosphere, and then they disappeared without a trace. Everything became calm again as Lin Feng appeared. He was still standing proudly on the fighting stage. He had broken the sealed doors. They broke. The crowd was astonished, staring at Lin Feng. That terrifying black lotus had destroyed the 8 sealed doors. Cough cough. Duan Wudao coughed and his muscles twitched. His soul had already been severely affected during his battle against Di Ling when the latter had destroyed his sealed doors. Now, Lin Feng had defeated them again, further injured his soul. "Do I need to escape?" asked Lin Feng indifferently. Duan Wudao's sealed doors had disappeared. "You used all your pure qi? Now, let's see how you want to continue the battle," said Duan Wudao coldly. Lin Feng smiled and said, "You cannot use your sealed doors indefinitely, they are defeated for the remainder of this battle. Your spirit is injured. How can you keep battling?" Lin Feng's strength of the Harukas then started rotating in his body. Several black lights appeared and made the entire atmosphere turn dark. Lin Feng was surrounded by a dark world. Lin Feng had used these evil powers against Xuesha before and now he was using them against Duan Wudao. Duan Wudao had asked Lin Feng how he intended to keep battling and Lin Feng responded. Duan Wudao looked at the evil body. The crowd was unable to predict the result of the battle. Who would be the final winner of the great competition of Xueyu? "You will see," said Duan Wudao. He then raised his head, looking as proud and arrogant as before. He stretched both his hands and a qi started rolling in them. Immediately after, several doors appeared. Real geniuses can make their spirit fuse with their body. Even without making my spirit appear, I can seal people's bodies. I will teach you what a real genius is. The crowd listened to Duan Wudao and watched his sealed doors. Their hearts were pounding at full speed. An authentic genius? An authentic genius could use the strength of his spirit without making it appear? They understood what it meant but couldn't understand how to do it. Duan Wudao threw himself at Lin Feng and appeared in front of him. The sealed doors moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng condensed his terrifying evil energy and his fist assaulted the doors. However, one of the doors immediately penetrated into Lin Feng's body. The crowd was stunned, maybe that door wouldn't be powerful enough to seal his body. "Seal!" shouted Duan Wudao furiously. An incredible amount of doors were moving towards Lin Feng and surrounding his demon body. Warlord punches. Duan Wudao released some more terrifying warlord qi and jumped towards Lin Feng. Explosions sounded and Lin Feng seemed like he couldn't take much more. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. A terrifying evil punch emerged from his body and collided with Duan Wudao. At the same time, an Azura body appeared. Break. Duan Wu Dao's attack then cut through Azura like a knife through butter. The Azura immediately disappeared. The evil light disappeared and Lin Feng was projected backward a few dozen steps when the last punch crashed onto Lin Feng's body. He looked a bit stunned. Duan Wu Dao didn't chase him, his soul was shaking. His illusionary sealed doors were easy to use. Duan Wu Dao had used lots of strength and now he had to win. Lin Feng would lose. Duan Wu Dao had to be the strongest cultivator at the competition. He was the most dazzling cultivator at the competition. Nobody else. The demon body was broken. Lin Feng knew perfectly well that Duan Wu Dao had used all his strength a moment before to finish him. He hadn't controlled himself. His soul had been badly hurt. Terrifying sealed doors energy had moved into his Lin Feng's body. Now, you have used all your pure qi and your demon body is broken. Your body sealed, how can you fight? Shouted Duan Wu Dao furiously. He was standing there like a hero for the crowd. It seemed like Duan Wu Dao was already the final winner. Chapter 679. The Climax, No Pure Qi, Broken Demon Body, Body Sealed? Lin Feng was looking at Duan Wu Dao with a smile forming from the corner of his mouth. Are you sure that you sealed my body? Duan Wu Dao looked at Lin Feng, smiled and said, no need to fight like that. I saw the doors seal your body. You'll have to find a solution to break the sealed doors inside of your body. Is that so? You are so smart, said Lin Feng. Then a terrifying spirit energy emerged in the air. Break, shouted Lin Feng furiously. In a flash, a terrifying sealed doors qi emerged out of Lin Feng's body and disappeared in the air. Lin Feng had managed to break the doors. Huh. Duan Wu Dao's smile suddenly froze. The seals had been broken? Lin Feng had managed to expel all the sealed doors and break them. Now, what do you have to say? Asked Lin Feng indifferently. Duan Wu Dao was stupefied, he looked hideous. Lin Feng had surprisingly managed to break the sealed doors. How had he done that? The crowd was astonished too. They had thought that the sealed doors had already sealed his body. There was no suspense anymore. Lin Feng's voice was still filled with self-confidence now that he had broken the seals. So what? How can you still fight me? Said Duan Wu Dao, narrowing his eyes. He released some more warlord qi. How did Lin Feng intend to keep battling? You have already used your spirit, but you have to remember that I haven't used mine, said Lin Feng indifferently. Then, a terrifying roaring sound spread in the air and next to Lin Feng appeared a terrifying purple light which launched at Duan Wu Dao. At the same time, 8 dragon heads appeared from Lin Feng's back and dashed to the skies. There were 8 dragon heads but only one body. Those heads were chanting the song of the dragons and looking at the sky as if they had wanted to swallow it. 8 heads. Yu Qingshan was stupefied. He was stared at Lin Feng's celestial fang spirit. It already possessed 8 heads. One more head and it would have 9 dragon heads. The final form of the dragon. At that moment, the dragon heads didn't look like a spirit anymore, they looked like a real beast. 8 heads. The crowd was astonished. Not many people had seen Lin Feng's spirit and were just discovering it. He possessed a terrifying dragon. Who was going to win that battle? Lin Feng was still standing there. His purple spirit had surrounded Duan Wu Dao's body. Duan Wu Dao wasn't as strong anymore. He was attacking the purple spirit unceasingly, but it was constantly reappearing again. He was unable to completely destroy the purple spirit. Duan Wu Dao froze when saw the 8 dragon heads. Lin Feng, with the strength of the 8th Shen Qi layer, could also release such a monstrously powerful spirit. Maybe that his soul was stronger than the 8th Shen Qi layer. Indeed, it is the power of his soul. Duan Wu Dao was astonished. He looked like he had suddenly understood something. Lin Feng had managed to expel the sealed doors out of his body because he had used his soul to attack it. That was the only explanation. The sealed doors hadn't actually been able to seal Lin Feng's body. Roa. The dragon roared and the 8 heads moved towards Duan Wu Dao. They were all opening their gigantic mouth and showing their fangs. They wanted to swallow Duan Wu Dao. Duan Wu Dao took out a pill and swallowed it. His strength came back to him and he returned to normal. A terrifying warlord energy emerged in the air and Duan Wudao shouted furiously, "Warlord punch? Pill?" Lin Feng smiled coldly and also took out a pure healing pill. In a flash, his pure chi came back to normal. A metallic sound spread in the air and his bloodthirsty sword appeared again. Lin Feng was firmly holding it as he slowly started walking towards Duan Wudao. The sword energy was dashing to the skies and on the ground appeared several fissures and crevices. Lin Feng's bloodthirsty sword was leaving some terrifying marks on the fighting stage. There was only sword chi around Lin Feng. Duan Wudao suddenly sensed that terrifying sword chi while his warlord punches were occupied with dragon and its 8 heads. He was content with them both. A terrifying sword intent crashed onto his body and it seemed like he was going to be swallowed. The sword chi was getting stronger and stronger, it was also getting colder and colder. Arg! Duan Wudao shouted furiously. He released a warlord energy which blotted out the sky and covered up the earth. The dragon was projected backwards, the purple snake were obliterated into pieces. But Lin Feng was still slowly walking forwards, his bloodthirsty sword in hand. Duan Wudao turned and lowered his head. He looked at Lin Feng in a calm way. Duan Wudao didn't want to give up, but I give up. Duan Wudao knew that he had lost the battle. He didn't have a chance to win anymore. That terrifying sword energy slowly disappeared. Lin Feng looked at Duan Wudao just as calm as before. Genius? Lin Feng put his sword away and said those few words to Duan Wudao. Duan Wudao was astonished. He had just told Lin Feng that he would show him what a real genius was. Duan Wudao looked at the calm Lin Feng. He was serene and so young. Lin Feng looked outstanding but he hadn't reached maturity yet. Lin Feng had been strong enough to make it so far though. Lin Feng was the winner of the great competition of Shuiyu. "You didn't disappoint me," said Jun Emoshi smiling warmly and friendly. Lin Feng had proved to Jun Emoshi that he had made the right decision. Lin Feng had really managed to do it. This time, he had finished first. Relying on some incredible skills and techniques, he had won. He had made it so far, step by step, he had risen up to the top. Tang Yuyu was also smiling resplendently. It was like a dream. She remembered the first time she had met Lin Feng at the restaurant. He had downed all the expensive liquor as if he hadn't cared at all. Now, he was the most outstanding disciple at the competition and was respected by millions of people. "No bad," thought Qing Meng Xen with a sexy smile forming from the corner of her mouth. She looked a bit surprised. Yun Fei Yang took out a bottle and drank some hot unit. How comfortable. Xiaoya, Han Man and Pajun all looked proud of their friend. They were clenching their fists. They had never thought that Lin Feng would be able to make it that far. Of course, many others were furious. Yu Qing-shan had mixed feelings. He could only sigh. Yu Lu Shui, Ting Wu Yao, the people of the Yu clan and of the Wanshou sect, Shui Sha, Ling Xiao, and several others were looking at that proud man and with regret. They were furious. They had never thought that Lin Feng would come out on top. The crowd was astonished but then calmed down. Nobody said anything. They were only looking at that proud-looking young man with new eyes. Lin Feng had no idea of all those things happening around him. He raised his head and looked at Shui Wucheng. Lin Feng was smiling resplendently and magnificently. He looked like a little sunshine. He had managed to finish the great competition of Shuiyu and had won. He was first. Chapter 680, Unexpected Disturbance. Shui Wucheng was speechless when he saw Lin Feng smile. Such a beautiful smile. Lin Feng had reached the top of the competition and won. He looked happy, fresh, proud. Such a resplendent smile made him look as if he had forgotten all the dust and dirt that existed in that filthy world. Shui Wucheng smiled too. He hadn't smiled that way for so many years. He seemed so relaxed. Sometimes, small things were enough to make people smile. "Lin Feng, congratulations," said Shui Wucheng respectfully. He really respected that young man in front of him. Sometimes that young man looked so arrogant but other times he was so pure and innocent. Shui Wucheng hadn't respected someone like for a very long time. There were many geniuses in Shengong but he had never seen someone like Lin Feng. a young man that he liked from the bottom of his heart. He hoped that Lin Feng would continue progress on the path of cultivation and become a glorious person. "Thank you," said Lin Feng with the same resplendent smile. He was very grateful to Xue Wuchang. Lin Feng could easily distinguish a fake and a real smile. He knew that Xue Wuchang really meant it. "Alright, the great competition of Xue Yu is now over. No matter your ranking, get ready to follow me to Xingong," said Xue Wuchang, glancing at the entire crowd. Everybody was a bit surprised. The great competition of Xue Yu was finished. So many had come, and it seemed like so many great battles had happened. The two last battles would remain with them forever. They couldn't believe that it was over. They didn't want the competition to end. Now, the competition was over and the best cultivators had to be rewarded. "I wonder what award Lin Feng will get," thought the crowd. Lin Feng had finished first, so he was probably going to get an incredible reward which would help him increase his cultivation level. If he became stronger, he would become terrifying. With Lin Feng's strength, only cultivators of the Tianqi layer could defeat him now. Di Ling was already monstrously powerful and possessed the firmament blood. He could control firmament intent and the firmament itself. He had broken through to the very top of the 9th Xianqi layer but had been defeated by Lin Feng. Duan Wudao had also broken through to the 9th Xianqi layer and the very peak of the Xianqi layer. With his warlord Qi, sealed doors intent, and his sealed doors he could defeat most people of the Xianqi layer. Those who could defeat him were extremely rare and terrifying. However, Lin Feng had managed to defeat Duan Wudao. Lin Feng was almost invincible amongst people of the Xianqi layer. If he became a little bit stronger, he really would have no enemy at the Xianqi layer. Apart from those people, there were also empires. The 4 empires were extremely influential. Young people who managed to rank high at the great competition of Xue Yu would bring incredible advantages to the empires they came from. The Dragon Mountain Empire had finished first, second and fourth. That kind of success was incredible. The country of Xue Yu had been particularly successful. The first and second finalists were from there. What kind of advantages would that bring to the country? Now, the rewards were about to be distributed. The candidates were eager to discover their prizes. Even if they hadn't finished at the top of the rankings, they were still eager to see what they would get. Having been able to participate at the great competition of Xue Yu was already a great honor. Shen Gong wouldn't treat them unfairly. Shen Gong would act equitably. Duan Wudao, Di Ling and some few others were not happy at all. They had come to finish first, but in the end the most dazzling cultivator was Lin Feng. "Get ready, we're leaving," said Xue Wuchang with a charming smile. Everybody rose up in the air and prepared to leave with him. But at that moment, a terrifying energy invaded the atmosphere. The kind of energy that made people's hearts start pounding violently. In the air, there were a few silhouettes who intercepted Xue Wuchang. They looked absolutely ordinary, to the extent that they didn't look surprising at all. But the qi they were emitting astonished people. It was a terrifying qi made them suffocate. People would have to submit themselves to power if they were attacked. Tianqi layer. People's hearts were pounding violently. Those people were cultivators of the Tianqi layer. A few of them laughed. They were surrounding Xue Wuchang and the crowd. Those people all had twinkling eyes. The crowd was terrified. The geniuses of the competition didn't know what was going on? Why were so many incredibly strong cultivators appearing out of nowhere? All of them were astonishingly strong. It was extremely rare to see such people. It was even rarer to see so many cultivators of the Tianqi layer together. More than a dozen cultivators of the Tianqi layer, thought the crowd. Their hearts were palpitating violently. What was happening? Could it be that more incredible battles were to come? Everybody pulled a long face, even Xue Wuchang. Some of those people were hiding their cultivation levels. They were preventing the crowd from leaving. Xue Wuchang looked cold as if he had already thought about something. "You're not from Xue Yu, what do you want and where do you come from?" asked Xue Wuchang. His heartbeat had also accelerated. He was wondering if Shen Gong had heard about them or if today was going to be an unlucky day. Shen Gong is not from Xue Yu either. "How come you're bluffing?" said one of them mockingly. The crowd was confused. Shen Gong didn't belong to Shuiyu? What did that mean? Shen Gong has been established in Shuiyu for several hundreds of years. Every 10 years, Shen Gong organizes the great competition of Shuiyu and enables the strongest young cultivators to become stronger. Why do you accuse us here of bluffing people? Shouted Shui Wuchang furiously. He was enraged. It was happening exactly as he feared. Those people came to cause Shen Gong trouble. Since the beginning of times, you've been eliminating the bad ones and making the strong ones stronger. They are the geniuses of Shuiyu. Shen Gong indeed organizes a gathering of geniuses and helps become much stronger. But all of this only giving face, who cannot help geniuses become stronger. You're not the only ones who can do it. In exchange for what you give them, can you guarantee that you ask for nothing in return? Said one of them mockingly. Shui Wuchang's mouth twitched. He looked even angrier. The competition was about to finish. He had never thought that these people would come from so far away to ruin everything and tarnish the image of Shen Gong. Shen Gong asks them for their opinion. They have the choice. Nobody forces them to do anything. Said Shui Wuchang, denying what that person was saying. However, the crowd was still surprised. Shen Gong wanted the young geniuses to do something for them. He was denying that part. Everybody looked at the beautiful women from Shen Gong. The banquet was held to seduce and tempt them. There were more things going on behind the curtains of the great competition of Shuiyu, it seemed. Since you don't force them and give them a choice, why don't you give them the choice now and let them choose? Once they are in Shen Gong, what choice do they have? Would they be strong enough to choose once they are trapped in Shen Gong? Said someone else. They weren't allowing anyone to leave. The geniuses of the competition were getting angry. It seemed like going to Shen Gong was tricking them into something. Chapter 681. 5 Terrifying Spheres of Influence. You have traveled from so far away to Micheng, you must be exhausted. However, it seems like you have nothing to do with Shen Gong, said a loud voice in the distance. The crowd saw a group of strong cultivators in the distance. The leader of Shen Gong North had come personally and was pressuring all those Tianqi layer cultivators. When Shui Wuchang saw the leader of Shen Gong North, he felt a bit relieved. Luckily they had come. Alone, he wouldn't have been able to deal with those people of the Tianqi layer. They were all monstrously skilled and strong cultivators. If things went down, he wouldn't have been able to save the situation. He perfectly understood that if the enemies hadn't attacked, it was because Shen Gong was a powerful sphere of influence. They had come from so far but didn't dare act recklessly. The leader of Shen Gong North, Bei Ming, is here. The cultivators of the Tianqi layer recognized who he was and immediately named him. They also knew that Shen Gong was divided into 4 different parts and that the leader of Shen Gong North was Bei Ming. You are all extremely strong cultivators with your own territories. Why come bother Shen Gong? Asked Bei Ming coldly, quickly glancing at the crowd. He was a bit upset. It seemed like so many strong cultivators had come to Micheng to interrupt the end of the great competition of Shuiyu. We don't need to use obscure messages to talk. We came here because our goal is the same as Bei Ming. There are many geniuses, Shen Gong wants to steal them and we don't quite agree with it. At that moment, someone moved their hands and an imperial golden dragon robe appeared. In a flash, the chi of the atmosphere drastically changed. It seemed frightening. The purple golden dragon king of the East Sea and 3 other empires. The others, you must clearly understand their social status. I, Bei Ming, don't need to tell you because you can easily guess, said Bei Ming when he saw that golden and purple dragon robe. The strong cultivators of the East Sea had arrived. Besides, the Dragon King had arrived too. The Dragon King in his golden and purple robe had come personally. The others didn't try to hide themselves anymore. The clothes they were wearing and the golden hats they had on their heads were becoming obviously powerful. The chi they were emitting was extremely strong. Those cultivators of the Tianqi layer weren't ordinary cultivators of the Tianqi layer at all. Apart from Shen Gong, there were 4 other spheres of influence. Their power of influence had so many cultivators of the Tianqi layer. They were terrifying and they had all come to Shuiyu. How terrifying! They could annihilate an entire empire. Lin Feng was remained staring at those people. apart from the Dragon King wearing the purple and golden clothes and his people, there were other people with terrifying ancient swords in their back. Their sword chi was dashing to the skies. Those people were infinitely stronger than Ling Xiao and were all sword cultivators. There was another group of people. Their leader had a warlord chi, just like Duan Wudao. They were wearing warlord helmets and their chi was much stronger than that of Duan Wudao. The last sphere of influence was just as terrifying. Their chi was similar to that of Lin Feng's evil energies. They were terrifying. A single glance at them sufficed to scare away anybody else. The East Sea Dragon Palace, the Nine Cloud Swords sect, the Jade Heaven Imperial family, and the Necropolis sect. Aren't very good. A tiny little region like Shuiyu attracted so many strong cultivators. Bei Ming should feel honored, said Bei Ming, staring back at those people. He had been surprised when he saw the purple golden dragon king, and then he had seen the people of Nine Cloud Swords, and the people of the Jade Heaven Imperial family and the people of the Necropolis sect. Those four powers of influence were as strong as Shingong, and surprisingly had all gathered in Shuiyu. It seemed like Shingong hadn't expected such a turnout. So many strong cultivators. They cannot belong to Shingong only. Since we are here, let them choose by themselves, said the purple golden dragon king indifferently. At that moment, people's hearts were pounding. They had thought that the great competition of Shuiyu had come to an end and that things would get calmed down once more. They had never thought that these incredible people would come. In front of them were so many terrifying cultivators. They were all cultivators of the Tianqi layer. There were even cultivators of the Tianqi layer who had come just to assist to the show. Cultivators of the Tianqi layer could easily annihilate Shuiyu. They were the strongest cultivator and were extremely rare. But at that moment, there was more than a dozen of them, including some people who had come just for fun. How astonishing! When they heard Bei Ming, they understood that the East Sea Dragon Palace, the Nine Cloud Swords sect, the Jade Heaven Imperial family and the Necropolis sect were all extremely strong and powerful spheres of influence. They weren't any weaker than Shingong. Shingong alone was enough to control and influence the entire region of Shuiyu. They were like the kings of Shuiyu. But now, at that moment, for other spheres of influence as strong as Shingong had appeared. What do you mean? What choice? Asked Bei Ming to the Dragon King in purple and golden clothes. The four other powers of influence gathered. It seemed difficult for Shingong not to share with them now. We, the five spheres of influence, can declare a few words and let them choose, replied the Dragon King. Immediately after, he looked at the three others and asked, "What do you think?" "I agree," said someone from the Nine Cloud Swords sect. "I agree too," said the Jade Heaven Imperial family and the Necropolis sect while nodding. "Who starts?" asked Ming Bei. "Shingong will." "You should speak for Shingong, Ming Bei," said the Dragon King. Shingong looked glum but turned to the crowd and said slowly, "Shingong has organized the great competition of Shuiyu. We've been helping you improve your cultivation level and I think that you were all very satisfied with that. You are all geniuses from Shuiyu. Shingong of course wants you to join us. We always want more geniuses. Of course, if you don't want to join Shingong, we won't force you. I just hope that you can help Shingong with one thing. They have also come for that one thing, so I hope that you will consider the question carefully," said Ming Bei clearly. He didn't sound menacing or aggressive at all. He hoped that even more geniuses would join Shingong. "Bei Ming is done talking, right? Let me say something then," said the Dragon King while looking at Lin Feng. "Lin Feng, I am from the East Sea Dragon Palace, overlord of the East Sea Empire. We are an empire of average quality. The four empires of Shuiyu are of lower quality. You can imagine what kind of people and territories we have in our control," said the Dragon King. Everybody clearly understood what he meant. Besides, the four empires of Shuiyu were of lower quality. Empire of lower quality differed a lot from empires of average quality. The countries under the jurisdictions of lower quality also differed a lot from the countries under the jurisdictions of empires of average quality. They differed a lot. At the East Sea Dragon Palace, we have a dragon spirit and our skills and techniques also have to do with dragons. You, Lin Feng, have a 9 dragons celestial fang spirit. If you join our palace, you will become extremely strong, a warlord. And you will have access to incredible Tian-level skills. You will be able to choose from any of them," said the Dragon King as if he had prepared everything, including his speech, to tempt Lin Feng. Bei Ming looked upset. What he had said wasn't enough to tempt the geniuses, including Lin Feng. Simply put, Lin Feng, you can join our Dragon Palace. We will welcome you warmly. The Dragon King and even the Patriarch of Palace will welcome you and teach you many things. They will help you consolidate your cultivation. Imagine the incredible advantages? You should consider the question carefully. Chapter 682. Lin Feng's choice. The crowd was jealous when they heard the Dragon King. What incredible advantages! The East Sea Dragon Palace was an overlord in the East Sea Empire, which was an empire of medium quality. They only wanted Lin Feng to join. They had Tian-level skills and would allow Lin Feng to choose. Besides, those skills had to do with Lin Feng's dragon spirit. If he accepted, he would become infinitely stronger. Apart from that, he would have the chance at having the highest leaders of the palace as his teachers. With such arguments, who could refuse? Dragon King, didn't you exceed the word limit we have agreed on? It was a bit too long, said Bei Ming, pulling a long face. They had agreed on a few words and he had delivered an entire speech. How detestable! Wait, said the Dragon Empire while smiling. Immediately he looked at other people and said, the others, if you want to join the East Sea Dragon Palace, you are welcome. You will also be able to share a part of the fun with us. After that, if you even come back to this trivial and feudal place, you will be regarded as incredible cultivators, said the Dragon King. Now his speech was finished. Let me talk now, said the leader of the 9 Cloud Sword sect. He then looked at Lin Feng and said, you have broken through to the very top of the 8th Xianqi layer. Your sword intent is level 5. I was personally dumbstruck by your incredible sword skills. I don't need to tell you how many extremely strong sword cultivators we have. To make it short, we are as strong as the East Sea Dragon Palace, but we are sword cultivators. If you want to join our sect, you will be able to quickly understand the next levels of sword intent and then even understand the abstruse significance. You would be able to easily destroy the 9 Cloud. Can you imagine the benefits for you? Then he looked at Ling Xiao and said, the same for you. We would definitely welcome you if you wanted to join our sect. You would become a monstrously strong sword cultivator because we are all sword cultivators. There's you as well. We would welcome you too, so just think about it. In the end, he looked at the young man with the sword. There were only 3 sword cultivators there and they really hoped that they would be able to get them. 4 sword cultivators. Joining the 9 Cloud Swords sect was an incredible opportunity. Then the leader of the Jade Heaven Imperial family, with his imperial chi, looked at Duan Wu Dao and Jun Mo Shi. Duan Wu Dao and Jun Mo Shi, you both have the blood of the monarchs. One is the warlord chi and the other is the vital chi of righteousness. For the Jade Heaven Imperial family, people like you are incredible. We would immediately welcome you. Dealing. Since you don't have a heavenly warlord chi but a firmament blood, we would also allow you to become a warlord, said an elegant-looking man with a helmet. He was releasing an imperial chi. He was only interested certain people, Duan Wu Dao, Jun Mo Shi and Di Ling. In the end, there was only the Necropolis sect which hadn't spoken. The leader was releasing a terrifying evil energy. He looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, you have a terrifying evil chi and you have some terrifying evil skills. Therefore all of them want you. If you want to develop your evil energies, we can help you. Everybody in the world would be scared to hear your name. Duan Wu Dao, Di Ling, Jun Mo Shi, Shuesha, we would also welcome you. Apart from Shengong, there were 4 other spheres of influence and they all wanted Lin Feng. Lin Feng had the 9 Dragons Celestial Fang's spirit, practiced sword cultivation, and also had the Haruka skills. Therefore, 3 sects wanted to have him. Lin Feng drew everybody's attention. They all hoped that Lin Feng would join them. Duan Wu Dao, Di Ling, Jun Mo Shi and some others also drew their attention. The rankings of the great competition of Shuiyu wasn't random, it really proved how strong those geniuses were. Indeed, there was no doubt, natural abilities and strength were different things but were also obvious. Then, all the people from the 5 spheres of influence were looking at the geniuses and waiting for them to choose. Most people were looking at their teachers and parents, especially those who already had a teacher and were already members of a sect. Choosing another sphere of influence would spell betrayal. Don't worry. Shen Gong will not make it difficult for your sections, said Bei Ming as if he had understood what people were thinking. The East Sea Dragon Palace is not a sect anyway. We are just a sphere of influence. Joining the East Sea Dragon Palace doesn't mean that you're not a member of your initial sect anymore. You could, as before, say that you're a member of your initial sect and an influential member of another sphere of influence, said the Dragon King in purple and golden clothes. The East Sea Dragon Palace was an overlord in the East Sea Empire. There were many sects under their control. Ling Xiao, join the 9 Cloud Sword sect. Go ahead, said a voice in the at that moment. It was Qi Qing Jian Ling Xiao's teacher. It is a sword sect. They practice sword cultivation. Extremely strong cultivators are numerous and they are much stronger than me. If you join the 9 Cloud Sword sect, you will still be able to say that you are my student but that you belong to the 9 Cloud Sword sect. I will not blame you and never consider that you betrayed your sect, said Ling Xiao's teacher. Ling Xiao had lost an arm. He hoped that Ling Xiao wouldn't give up and would continue to not lose his determination and willpower on the path of cultivation. Joining the 9 Cloud Sword sect would enable him to reach the clouds. Teacher, said Ling Xiao. He looked touched and moved, but he understood what his teacher meant. Listen to me. Roger, teacher, said Ling Xiao nodding. He then looked at the strong cultivator of the 9 Cloud Sword sect and said, I, Ling Xiao, accept to join your sect. Alright, very good. We welcome you, said the leader nodding. Even though Ling Xiao had lost an arm, it didn't mean that he had become a piece of trash. Besides, he had already reached such a high level. He had broken through to the 8th Shen Qi layer and his sword intent was level 3. Those things weren't going to disappear. So do I, said the other sword cultivator with the silver sword. A sword sect was extremely attractive. How could a sword cultivator refuse such an offer? The 9 Cloud Sword sect welcomes you as well. They then all turned to Lin Feng hoping that he would accept to join them. With his level 5 sword intent, he would probably become the strongest cultivator of the 9 Cloud Sword sect. Unfortunately, Lin Feng wasn't saying anything and remained silent. What are you offering us? Asked Duan Wu Dao indifferently. I also want to know, said Di Ling nodding. They wouldn't join a sphere of influence that easily. They needed to know more. We will let you enter some mysterious cultivation dimensions which will make you become extremely strong cultivators. You will profit from a myriad of advantages. That is one of our goals in Shuiyu. I hope that you will join Shengong, said Bei Ming. The crowd already knew a little bit more. It seemed like the geniuses would be able to join some mysterious and mystical cultivation dimensions if they joined Shengong. Bei Ming is right. If you join the East Sea Dragon Palace, it will be the same but much better. Of course, if you're not interested in those mystical dimensions and mysteries, we will not force you but we will welcome you anyway, said the Dragon King in purple and golden clothes. The crowd just nodded. I need time to think about it, said Duan Wu Dao. So do I, said Di Ling and the others and some others. They had the choice. They needed to consider everything carefully. That choice could change their lives. What about you, Lin Feng? Asked the Dragon King. Lin Feng was the one everybody wanted the most. They all hoped that Lin Feng would join them. I will not join any of you, said Lin Feng, leaving everybody in disbelief. Lin Feng wasn't interested in any of them and was refusing all their offers, no matter how amazing the offers sounded. About the mysterious and mystical things you were talking about, I need to think for a while, said Lin Feng to Bei Ming nodding. Bei Ming was stupefied but then smiled. Lin Feng was saying that he needed to think about whether he wanted to join the mystical and mysterious cultivation dimensions and areas. What that meant was that the only sphere of influence he was interested in joining was Shengong. Chapter 683. Everybody's Choice. The people of the East Sea Dragon Palace, the 9 Cloud Sword sect and the Necropolis sect were stupefied. Lin Feng had refused their offers immediately. He was just interested in the mysterious and mystical things Shingong had to offer. You don't need to think, you can't miss such an opportunity. You will regret it in the future otherwise, said the Dragon King. But Lin Feng shook his head and said, thank you all for your offers, but I have already made a decision, please forgive me. Since it was his own choice, Lin Feng wouldn't regret. This time, he had refused incredible dragon skills and techniques. He had missed the opportunity to be trained as an incredible sword cultivator, but he wasn't going to regret. In his head, he was determined and was going to stick to his initial principles. He didn't like the feeling of having no freedom. He didn't want to submit to anyone, so he wasn't going to join any sphere of influence. Besides, Shingong had organized the great competition of Shuiyu. Without Shingong, he wouldn't have benefited from so many great things. He wouldn't have stood at the top of the fighting stage of the competition. Without Shingong, he would still have the strength of the 5th Xianqi layer. Di Ling, Xuesha and Duan Wudao would also have still been much stronger than him. His life might have been in danger too. Lin Feng didn't want to face Shingong later on because they had helped him so much already. He didn't feel like offending people who helped him. Alright, since it's that way, I will not insist. What about the others? Who wants to join the East Sea Dragon Palace? I welcome everybody. Those who ranked amongst the 5 first will benefit from incredible advantages. For example, Tian level skills and techniques. The others will also benefit from good skills and techniques. The Dragon King rolled up his sleeves as if Lin Feng hadn't given him face. Many people were stupefied. Tian level skills and techniques were terrifying. Obtaining such skills were extremely difficult. How attractive! That kind of temptation made so many people think about it twice. Everybody was interested in such magical powers. They were extremely rare, and joining the East Sea Dragon Palace would enable them to obtain great magical powers. At that moment, the Dragon King was offering them such things. Di Ling, said Di Ling's father suddenly. Di Ling turned around and looked at his father hovering in the air. Di Ling, you have the firmament blood which is brutal and violent. The East Sea Dragon Palace is the best sphere of influence for you to join, said Di Ling's father, Di Shitian. Di Ling remained silent for a moment and then looked back at the Dragon King in purple and golden clothes and said, I accept your offer. Alright, we will go back together and you will obtain some Tian level skills that you can choose personally from, said the Dragon King smiling. He then glanced at Lin Feng. Even though Di Ling wasn't as gifted as Lin Feng, he was also monstrously powerful. Such a genius joining the Dragon Palace was a great opportunity. Di Ling had broken through to the very top of the Xianqi layer and was about to break through to the Tianqi layer. Joining such a great power of influence wouldn't be a waste. Besides, with Di Ling's natural abilities, ordinary cultivators of the Tianqi layer wouldn't be a threat to him. I also accept, said some other people. The Dragon King smiled when he heard them and said, very good, we welcome everyone. The people from the other 3 spheres of influence were standing there calmly. They were not like the East Sea Dragon Palace. Apart from a few people, they didn't need the others. The Jade Heaven Imperial family was only interested in warlords, monarchs, emperors and so on. The Necropolis sect was only interested in those with an evil energy. Finding geniuses was extremely difficult for them. The best one for them would be Lin Feng. Duan Wudao, Junimo Shi, the Jade Heaven Imperial family is perfect for you, much better than the East Sea Dragon Palace, said someone from the Jade Heaven Imperial family again while looking at Duan Wudao and Junimo Shi. Those 2 people belonged to the imperial families of Shuiyu and Dragon Mountain. They both had imperial blood. They had the chi of monarchs and emperors, and they had ranked 2nd and 4th at the great competition of Shuiyu. Duan Wudao's eyes were twinkling. Lin Feng had already made a decision. Di Ling was going to join the East Sea Dragon Palace where he would be able to obtain some Tian level skills and techniques. If he didn't join a sphere of influence, Lin Feng might become even stronger than him. But he didn't worry about Di Ling because he needed external help to break through to the Tianqi layer and become stronger. I have one requirement. The Jade Heaven Imperial family cannot imprison me. I am as before, Duan Wudao, said Duan Wudao. Everybody was surprised. Being a genius allowed him to choose. Ordinary people had no choice and couldn't have requirements. But Duan Wu Dao was a genius and could require things from people, even from the Jade Heaven Imperial family. "Welcome," said the strong cultivation while smiling. He then turned to Jun Emoshi and asked, "What about you?" "Me?" said Jun Emoshi smiling. He then shook his head and said, "I'm like Lin Feng. I am not used to having limits and submitting myself, please forgive me." The strong cultivator of the Jade Heaven Imperial family nodded. He wasn't going to beg him. It was Jun Emoshi's own decision. The others also gradually chose what they wanted. Amongst the 8 best cultivators, Lin Feng wasn't going to join any sphere of influence, but he might cooperate with Shingong. The second, Duan Wu Dao, was going to join the Jade Heaven Imperial family. The third one, Di Ling, was going to join East Sea Dragon Palace. The fourth one, Jun Emoshi, the sixth one, Tang Yuyu, and the 8th one, Yunfei Yang, all followed Lin Feng. The fifth one, Xuesha, didn't choose anything either. The Tiansha sect was already a sphere of influence, and the 7th one, Ling Xiao, chose to join the 9 Cloud Sword sect. The others all chose as well, but nobody attached importance to them. The most important people were the first 8 winners. "Now, shouldn't you leave Xueyu?" asked Bei Ming, coldly glancing at the people from the 4 spheres of influence. This time, the great competition of Xueyu had been the arena of a great deal of events. Some people had become extremely strong thanks to Shingong, but now they were leaving because the 4 other spheres of influence had appeared. Bei Ming wasn't happy at all. "Hee, maybe we will see each other again soon," said the Dragon King in purple and golden clothes. Then he waved and said, "Those who accepted to join the East Sea Dragon Palace, come with me." When he finished talking, he rose up in the air and the others followed him. Just like them, the others also left Xueyu. They hadn't come for nothing this time. Not only had they obtained some geniuses, but they had also understood the purpose of the great competition of Xueyu. Maybe those people would become their enemies. But ultimately, some geniuses had become their allies. Bei Ming looked at all those people leaving and then glanced at those who had stayed. It made him feel better to see Lin Feng and the few others who had stayed. "I will do my best to honor your decision, thank you," said Bei Ming to those who had stayed. "Now let's go, you will all obtain some treasures." Wait, said Lin Feng suddenly. Bei Ming suddenly felt nervous. Was Lin Feng going to change his mind? He was terrified by the idea of Lin Feng joining another sphere of influence. It would be horrible for Shingong. "Mister, I have some friends here with me. Is it a problem if they join?" asked Lin Feng. The great competition of Xueyu was over. Han Man, Xiaoya, and Pajun couldn't stay there alone because Lin Feng would worry about them. Bei Ming couldn't refuse Lin Feng's requirement. A few more people could following them shouldn't be a problem. Chapter 684. The general overview of the continent. A group of people were flying over the white clouds, and once again, they had soon arrived in Shingong, the mysterious place. Amongst those people were some who were going there for the first time in their life. Shingong was an incredible place. Yu Tianming was there and it was his first time. However, Yu Tianming wasn't as arrogant as he used to be. He was just following the crowd and looking lonely. He was keeping some distance with the group of people in front of him. All of those who were in front of him were incredible cultivators, geniuses. Yu Tianming was the second high official of Xueyu. In the past, apart from Duan Wu Dao, he despised everybody else. However, during the great competition of Xueyu, he was an insect and Duan Wu Dao was still one of the greatest geniuses. The scariest part was that Yu Tianming had never thought that his aunt, who had been expelled from the Yu clan, would have a son. His real cousin had won the great competition of Xueyu. He could only admire him and look up at him from now on. He wasn't jealous anymore. When Lin Feng had defeated him before, he had felt hatred and pain. But now he was calm and serene because Lin Feng helped him realize that they all didn't belong to the same world. Yu Qingshan, Lin Feng's grandfather, couldn't win against Lin Feng anymore. The leader of Shingong North was looking at Lin Feng with a smile. Even if Shingong was a monstrous sphere of influence, for Bei Ming to have Lin Feng following them was incredible. Even though he hadn't participated at the great competition of Xueyu, he knew everything that had happened had been incredible. Lin Feng was a real genius. In 1,000 years there might be someone to surpass him. They couldn't afford despising Lin Feng at this point. The people of Shingong, just like Bei Ming, had to pay attention to such dangers and anticipate. Some young people could be a threat for them in the future, so they had to make friends with them early on, before it was too late. A short moment after, everybody entered Shingong arrived outside a gigantic palace. Hao Peng was there and had glanced at Lin Feng and the others. He looked a bit upset. There were so many geniuses, Hao Peng was worried that if they became stronger than him, he wouldn't be as interesting as before. He wouldn't be able to act so arrogantly. "You understand?" said Bei Ming to Hao Peng. Hao Peng looked calm and solemn. You could tell he was envious and jealous, but he only nodded and said, "Hold on a minute." "Go," said Bei Ming, waving, and then he pointed at another palace where there were tables and chairs. "Everybody, please take a seat." Lin Feng and the others sat down. Some others weren't used to such things, it seemed like they couldn't relax. Shingong was a terrifying place. The people who were inside were, for most of them, at the top of the Shenqi layer. Actually, their strength was unfathomable. The East Sea Dragon Palace and the Jade Heaven Imperial family were probably similar. "Everybody, you chose to come here to Shingong. It is a great honor. I, Bei Ming, am very honored. Now, I will tell you the purpose of the great competition of Shuiyu," said Bei Ming, glancing around at the crowd. Everybody's eyes were twinkling and sparkling. They were all curious to see those mysterious areas. Everybody knows that the continent of the 9 clouds is extremely vast. Shuiyu is only a little part of the continent. An empire of average quality is more vast than Shuiyu. Besides, an empire of average quality also controls empires of lower quality and the countries under their jurisdiction. That is a general overview, said Bei Ming while continuing to look at the crowd. Now, look at the map of the continent of the 9 clouds. Bei Ming waved his hand and a beam of light appeared. In a flash, a mirror appeared. In the mirror there was a gigantic map of the continent of the 9 clouds. The crowd was stupefied by how large it was. There were so many countries, it looked like there was an infinite number of countries. They glanced at all the countries but couldn't find Shuiyu or even their own country. "Look," said Bei Ming pointing at a location. A beam of light appeared again and landed on a place in the east of the map. It was a region labeled Shuiyu. "That is Shuiyu?" The crowd was astonished. Shuiyu was supposed to be vast and gigantic, but on the map it looked absolutely tiny, like a dot. "Look here. This is the East Sea Empire," said Bei Ming pointing at another place. That region was much larger than Shuiyu. The East Sea Empire was where the East Sea Dragon Palace reigned as warlords. Look at the north, you will see that the regions are getting bigger and bigger. Some of those places don't have countries, there are only sections, explained Bei Ming. The crowd just followed Bei Ming's fingers. As expected, the regions were getting bigger and bigger. There were fields, mountain chains, and oceans. In the center was a place. When the people saw the center of the continent of the 9 clouds, they were dumbfounded. What a gigantic region! What empire is that? It looks terrifying, said some people. In the middle of the continent of the 9 clouds, there was a gigantic place and above it there was a word, holy. "Look here," said Bei Ming pointing at the holy word. He was smiling. "It is the center of the continent of the 9 clouds. It is the holy city. All around the holy city are incredible spheres of influence. They are much stronger than Shingong, the East Sea Dragon Palace, or even the Jade Heaven Imperial family. On the scale of the holy city, we all are insignificant. They are all much stronger than us. There are empires of higher quality there as well, and cultivators who have reached the clouds. In the very middle is the holy city. It is the paradise of cultivators, a city filled with the strongest cultivators of the world." Their hearts started pounding when they heard him. It was the paradise of strong cultivators, a city filled with the strongest cultivators of the world. Shuiyu was such a small place in the continent of the 9 clouds. Even if they were the strongest young cultivators of Shuiyu, they were nothing in comparison with the strong cultivators of the holy city. Shingong wasn't that strong either in comparison. There were many more spheres of influence in the world. including a great deal stronger than Shengong. Are you feeling dispirited? Discouraged? Or do you have the feeling that you are tiny and insignificant in comparison? Asked Bei Ming. Many people raised their heads and looked at Bei Ming. In their eyes, Bei Ming could really see that some people felt discouraged. Were they really geniuses? Now, they were geniuses in Xueyu, but what were they in compared to the geniuses of the continent of the Nine Clouds? The crowd looked at Lin Feng and saw him sitting straight like a sword. A terrifying energy was emerging out of his body as if he was about to unsheathe his sword and fight against the world. Their hearts were pounding. Was that the difference between them and Lin Feng? When seeing how small they were in the world, they felt insignificant. But Lin Feng suddenly felt like reaching the clouds even more. His heart was filled with an indomitable determination. When Bei Ming saw how people were reacting, he was satisfied. He was even more satisfied by Lin Feng's reaction. Lin Feng's heart was indestructible, just like that of extremely strong cultivators. With Lin Feng's determination, he would definitely become an extremely strong cultivator in the continent of the Nine Clouds. He had to leave Xueyu at some point. This time the geniuses from the great competition of Xueyu had to leave and go to empires of higher qualities. Even the strongest empires needed more great geniuses. Therefore, the 4 spheres of influence had come from so far to find these geniuses. In the end, Shen Gong had obtained the most outstanding genius. You shouldn't stay in Xueyu, you are incredible geniuses. Therefore, you should become even stronger here, said Bei Ming, pointing at the holy city. Those words were resonating in people's brains. The sharp lights disappeared and the map as well. Several people were staring at Bei Ming with a smile. Bei Ming hadn't told them about the goal of Shen Gong, he had just motivated them to become even stronger. They were all more determined than ever to become strong cultivators. That was the advantage of staying with incredible cultivators, they would become stronger. Chapter 685. Zun cultivators. Bei Ming glanced at the crowd. People didn't dare look at him in the eyes. Those who are extremely strong have their own territory. Do you know what cultivators of the Tianqi layer are capable of? Do you know what cultivators of the Zunqi layer can do? Do you know the magical powers of cultivators of the Zunqi layer? Asked Bei Ming, shouting. Nobody knew. Some people knew a little about cultivators of the Tianqi layer but knew nothing about cultivators of the Zunqi layer. They had never seen any, they couldn't even imagine what they were. What kind of cultivators were people of the Zunqi layer? What kind of magical powers did they have? They had never thought about such questions. In such a vast and broad area as Shengong, we have a leader and he controls Shengong. Only cultivators of the Zunqi layer can be called Zun cultivators in the continent of the Nine Clouds. They are respected and possess their own territory, their own world. They control territories. The territories they control are maybe vaster than the countries you come from. Maybe even bigger than the empires you come from. The mysterious and mystical dimensions and territories I am talking about and will send you to are actually under the control of a Zun cultivator, and has been for thousands of years. Zun cultivator. The crowd was astonished. They were shivering. Zun cultivators. For them, Tian cultivators were already incredible, amazing, astonishing. But Zun cultivators, they didn't dare think about it. They had never thought about such a cultivation layer, even in their most incredible dreams. Such cultivators could destroy the world in one breath. They could destroy mountains, forests and rivers. They could make a river dry out with a finger. There is one cultivator who is even stronger than cultivators of the Zunqi layer. In his palace, he used to have a myriad of servants that were cultivators of the Zunqi layer. You wish you could be like those servants. His slaves were cultivators of the Tianqi layer. You can imagine what kind of world he created and how great it would be for you to go there, continued Bei Ming. Everyone's hearts started bouncing brutally. A cultivator even stronger than the Zunqi layer. How incredible! Lin Feng's eyes were twinkling. No wonder that Shengong was organizing the great competition of Xueyu every 10 years. No wonder the 4 other spheres of influence had come to steal those geniuses. It seemed like it was for that extremely strong cultivator that Bei Ming was talking about. Leader, could it be that this special world only opens itself every 10 years? If that is the case, many of our ancestors must have already died there, right? Asked Lin Feng. It made sense seeing how the great competition of Shuiyu was only happening every 10 years. Besides, their strength must be restrained in there, right? Said Junimo, she smiling in a deep and meaningful way. If there were all those extremely strong cultivators inside, it would have been useless for them to get in. They couldn't compete with cultivators of the Tian and Zun Qi layers. That would be courting death to do so. Indeed, there are some rules inside. Only people who are below the Zun Qi layer can go, those above would die. And you're wrong, Lin Feng. The great competition of Shuiyu takes place every 10 years, but this time you have drawn some people's attention. The special world has opened twice so far, about every 100 years. If you are willing to enter the area this time around, you will be the third group of people to go there. 100 years. Third time. Besides, cultivators above the Tianqi layer cannot enter. Only 2 groups had entered that world before. It meant that the opportunities they would have there would be incredible. The crowd understood why the other spheres of influence wanted to attract Lin Feng, Duan Wu Dao, Di Ling and the others. With their strength, even though they hadn't broken through to the Tianqi layer, they already counted as extremely strong cultivators. Unfortunately, Shen Gong hadn't managed to make all the geniuses come with them. How do we share the treasures we find inside? Do we have to share some with Shen Gong? Asked someone suddenly. Hee, if you enter that special world, Shen Gong only requires one thing. You can keep the treasures or you can exchange them for skills and techniques or even other treasures. Said Bei Ming smiling. The crowd was surprised. Of course, opportunities and dangers cohabit in that world. Entering the world of the strong cultivators is dangerous. You will find the young people of Shen Gong and geniuses belonging to other spheres of influence. They have the same thoughts and ideas as you. They want to steal treasures and come back with them, but some of them never come out. Bei Ming's eyes were twinkling. He looked excited. Some of them might never leave. Would they dare go in? Some Zun cultivators were the servants of someone even more terrifying than a Zun cultivator. The slaves were of the Tianqi layer. How could people stay out of such a world? They would definitely enter to steal the treasures. People were just wondering where the master of that world was at that moment. Why was that world a secret and mystical place? What had happened 1,000 years before? I will enter, said Lin Feng. His eyes were twinkling. He clenched his fists. He was filled with self-confidence. That was the opportunity of a lifetime. Me too. So will I. Everybody was determined to enter. Nobody was giving up. Bei Ming had given them confidence and courage with his words. The continent of the 9 clouds was vast and gigantic. Shuiyu was a small region and was far from the holy city, the center of the continent. They still had so much to discover. All right, replied Bei Ming smiling. Everybody wanted to enter. What about people who want to join Shen Gong? Who wants to join Shen Gong? We will welcome you and raise you as our own children, said Bei Ming. He then continued, there's no need to rush your reply. As I told you before, you have the choice. In any case, it will be a meaningful choice. I already told Hao Peng to go and told the respectable cultivator about everything. Soon you will discover what cultivation is really about. The respectable cultivator was incredible. The Hao Yu sect or even the Cosmic Pavilion were nothing in comparison. They were geniuses in a small country, but they had never thought the great competition of Shuiyu would end this way. Surprisingly, there was a Zun cultivator. Besides, he was going to appear personally. Their hearts were pounding. All right, everybody after the great competition of Shuiyu needs to rest. You need a night of cultivation and tomorrow, I hope you will all be ready, said Bei Ming smiling. Immediately after a girl appeared and she showed them the way. Lin Feng, come, said Qing Chan smiling. Qing Chan looked shy and lowered her head. In front of her own eyes, Lin Feng had finished first at the competition. She was looking at him with new eyes now. That outstanding young man had the ardor and the determination of an incredible cultivator. Lin Feng would have been even more incredible if he had been raised in a better place. All right, said Lin Feng smiling. My friends and I will stay together then. All right, said Qing Chan nodding. Lin Feng and the others walked together, but in Shingong, a palace was enough for Lin Feng and his friends. Brother, let's walk first, said Xiao Yi while giggling. Shingong was incredible. First let's go there and then I will come with you, said Lin Feng, shaking his head and smiling. Xiao Yi giggled. Han Man arrived in front of Lin Feng. After the competition, he hadn't talked to Lin Feng. He looked at Lin Feng through his mask. He had a simple smile on his face. It seemed like he didn't know what to say. It seemed like the images of the competition were still floating in his head. Lin Feng had finished first. If you come back to Shuiyu, you will definitely be considered as a hero. However, the Yunhai sect, said Han Man abruptly. If the Yunhai sect hadn't been destroyed, Lin Feng would have brought it great honor. Luckily, Lin Feng had made it resurrect already. Chapter 686. At dusk at night in Shingong, there was a bright and clear moon illuminating the region. It was reflecting off the clouds, making the atmosphere look somehow dreary and desolate. Wow, the moon is bright and clear up here. Above the clouds, there was a silhouette standing and looking at the moon. What a mysterious world, whispered Lin Feng. That place was clearly another world. The moon looked incredible. I wonder if the moon is different at home, said a voice sighing. Was that celestial body the same as that scene from home? The word home just reminded them of a few vague and blurry souvenirs. The moon at home is probably more beautiful than here, said Xiaoya smiling. Lin Feng nodded. Home in his head was already a blurry souvenir. Now, he was a cultivator of the continent of the 9 clouds. Even though the moon is beautiful, some zither music is missing, said another voice suddenly. Lin Feng turned his head and smiled at Tang Yuyu. Are you also feeling nostalgic and emotional? On the path of cultivation, you need to remain determined, but if you are emotionless, it's pointless, said Tang Yuyu smiling. You also think that the moon looks less beautiful, right? Lin Feng smiled and rolled up his sleeves. He then sat down cross-legged. His eyes were twinkling as an ancient zither appeared on his knee. Tang Yuyu was surprised. Lin Feng could play the zither? Xiaoya was surprised and then giggled. She lied down next to Lin Feng and looked up at the moon. She was wondering how her grandfather was feeling. Her grandfather had given her to Lin Feng, so he had probably gone to get his revenge. He had probably gone to avenge Xiaoya's brother. Her grandfather had never forgotten Xiaoya's brother. Because she was far away, her grandfather would be able to get his revenge. Meeting Lin Feng had been a nice opportunity. It had enabled her grandfather to find someone to take care of Xiaoya. Dang! A sound spread in the atmosphere. It was that of a zither. A cloud of smoke was spreading in the air that made the atmosphere look desolate. It seemed like someone was drinking alone under the moon and crying over a beautiful woman or a friend. It seemed like someone was chatting alone to the earth and sky. Tang Yuyu was captivated by the music. Without realizing it, she sat down in a natural and relaxed way. She looked at the lonely silhouettes around her and listened to melancholic notes of the instrument. Tang Yuyu's eyes were twinkling. In front of her appeared some bottles of alcohol. She opened them and started drinking. Quickly her face became red and perfectly matched the moonlight. She looked particularly enchanting. The moon, the zither, some fine liquors, good friends, that was a picturesque scenery. Nothing was missing. Tang Yuyu would have probably sighed with emotions if she had seen herself. However, if she hadn't been in the picture, something would have been missing. Progressively, there were more and more high-pitched tones. The melody was going up and down like a roller coaster. It was resonating in the darkness of the night. Xiaoya closed her eyes. It seemed like she had fallen asleep. Tang Yuyu was still drinking. She hadn't emerged out of the picture. In the distance, in 2 different places, there were 2 silhouettes watching Lin Feng's back. Qing Chan was smiling. She liked Lin Feng's eyes. She admired Lin Feng for his cultivation but also for his zither skills. What a well-rounded young man. Qing Mengxen was also looking at Lin Feng from a table. She had a resplendent and seducing smile. That guy was perfect. With his determination and temperament, He had finished first at the great competition of Shuiyu. He was frivolous and still alive. He was filled with ardor and vitality. Maybe you aren't as perfect as Jun Emoshi in some ways, but you are better at attracting women, whispered Qing Meng Xian. Qing Meng Xian was looking at Qing Chan and Tang Yuyu sitting. Women liked Lin Feng. Lin Feng then put away his zither and looked at Xiaoya, who was closing her eyes. His face was filled with warmth and tenderness. Lin Feng turned his head to Tang Yuyu, who was still drinking alcohol. Her face was red and she still looked bewitching. Tang Yuyu turned her head and looked at Lin Feng. Her face turned even redder. Then she slightly lowered her head and put the bottles away. Suddenly she looked normal again. She smiled and said, "I wouldn't have thought that you could play the zither so well." "An old man taught me," said Lin Feng, smiling. Back then, Yan Yu Pingsheng had taught him some basics. Tang Yuyu smiled and remained silent. "I'm going to have a rest," said Tang Yuyu, standing up and walking away. Now Qing Chan and Qing Meng Xian had already left. Lin Feng shook his head and carefully took Xiaoya in his arms. Then he walked away. At dusk, a pleasant and comfortable breeze brushed away in Shingong. Lin Feng and the others had arrived in front of the palace they had first arrived at the day before. Now they were going to listen to the Zun cultivator. Of course, they were all impatient. They were particularly excited. They were at the top of the Xianqi layer. Their blood was becoming stronger and stronger. A strong cultivator's advice would surely be useful. Bei Ming arrived and saw that everybody was there already. He smiled, looking gratified. The geniuses who had made it to the end of the great competition of Shuiyu were full of willpower and determination. They were all eager to become extremely strong. "Everybody follow me," said Bei Ming. He then jumped in the distance. The crowd then followed him and crossed the atmosphere of Shingong. After a short time, the crowd arrived in a place where buildings weren't so tall, just small and simple. There was a simple palace with a normal door. Through that small passage they could see an old man sitting cross-legged on a round chair. His eyes were firmly closed and it seemed like he was in a state of meditation. Outside of the palace, people were progressively moving forwards. Bei Ming was the same. He was walking there, step by step. "Respectable cultivator," said Bei Ming, slightly bowing. "Come in." His voice was made their souls shake. The Zun cultivator was sitting in a small courtyard. But was that a strong cultivator? The others slowly followed and entered into the small courtyard. There were many chairs inside, but nobody sat down. They were all too eager. Lin Feng arrived in front of a chair and looked at the old man. His heart was beating faster. "It's him?" That silhouette was blurry in Lin Feng's memories. In the special area where he had stayed for 7 days, he had seen that silhouette. He hadn't seen that person's face. He had only seen his silhouette. But now the old man looked very familiar. Lin Feng knew him, and it made sense that the old man was a Zun cultivator. "Everybody, please be seated," said the Zun cultivator, whose eyes started shaking. His lips were twitching, but his voice was particularly clear. It seemed like he was using magical powers to talk to them. Their hearts were shaking. Everybody sat down and looked up at the old man respectfully. It seemed like they were worthless in front of that strong cultivator. He could destroy a mountain with his finger and make oceans dry out. Chapter 687. Before breaking through to the Tianqi layer, the strong cultivator opened his eyes once everybody sat down. He looked absolutely normal, but in his eyes one could see something deep and profound. It seemed that for the strong cultivator, the world had no secrets. It seemed like he knew and understood everything. He could see through things. "Why are you here?" asked the old man, surprising everybody. Why had they come? Because they wanted to become stronger, of course. They wanted to learn from a strong cultivator. "For the sake of cultivation," replied somebody. In the continent of the 9 clouds, people wanted to progress on the path of cultivation. They wanted to become monstrously strong. They wanted to control the world and their own destiny. "What about the others?" asked the Zun cultivator, glancing around the crowd. The other people nodded. They had come for the sake of cultivation. "Very good. Since you have come for the sake of cultivation, can you tell me what cultivation is?" asked the Zun cultivator indifferently. Everybody was surprised. What was cultivation? Strong cultivators wanted to be respected and reach the clouds. They wanted to control the clouds and their fate, but few of them had ever thought about what cultivation really was. Everybody remained silent. "Nobody can tell me," said the Zune cultivator. The cultivators remained silent and were a bit surprised. What a simple question. But they couldn't even reply. Many people lowered their heads. They felt stupid. "If you haven't studied cultivation deeply, how could you become strong cultivators?" sighed the Zune cultivator. The crowd felt even more ridiculous. They had said that they wanted to become strong cultivators and that they had come for the sake of cultivation, but they couldn't reply to a simple question. Cultivation, as I see it, includes many things. It is about learning skills and techniques, making one's body stronger, improving one's strength. It's about surpassing one's self and one's own limits. It's about studying and understanding. You can use the strength of the earth and sky for your own interests. First you can borrow their strength, and then you can control their strength. Then, you will be able to understand the abstruse significance. Once you can control that kind of strength, you don't need to think about anymore," said the old man slowly. Then he continued, "That is how I understand what cultivation is. What about you?" The first step was making one's own body stronger. The second step was about borrowing the strength of the planet. The third step was controlling the earth and sky. Looking at it that way made it seem easy to understand what cultivation was, but in fact it was precisely that way. It was about starting weak and then becoming stronger. And eventually, someday, becoming a cultivator would be about controlling the earth. Step by step, if a cultivator managed to control the earth and sky, they would become an authentically strong cultivator. But what kind of cultivator was that? Could a Zune cultivator control the earth and the sky? Probably not. "Do you understand what I mean?" asked the old man, making them shiver. "At our level, we can only borrow the strength of the earth and sky and use skills. We are learning basic things such as using intent. All of those things are about borrowing strength, including their chi. Those who understand the earth and sky the best, including their strength, are the strongest," said someone. The Zune cultivator nodded and said, "You are just about right. The chi of the earth and sky allow you to make your magical powers become stronger. It enables you to improve your intent level, then one day you're able to destroy the earth and sky. That's the only way to become stronger." Lin Feng kept nodding. He understood things better than most people. No matter if it was on the path of sword cultivation, the strength of the Haruka, corporeal strength, etc. All of those things were about borrowing external strength, the strength of the earth and sky. If you understand that, tell me how to become stronger and break through to the different cultivation layers? Using pure chi, and once it reaches a certain level we break through to different cultivation layers, said someone else. "What are cultivation layers?" asked the Zune cultivator. The crowd was stupefied again. What were cultivation layers? "And how can you break through to the next cultivation layers?" repeated the Zune cultivator. Cultivation layers are probably related to one's power of understanding. If our power of understanding is deep enough, we can break through to the next one, said someone else. The cultivation layers represent one of the most important aspects of cultivation, but it is difficult to talk about such abstract concepts. Once the required factors are present, one can break through to the next cultivation layer. Practicing cultivation enabled you to break through to your current cultivation level and use your current skills and techniques. "It's like a river and stones," said the Zune cultivator. He then stretched his hand and in a flash appeared a drop of water which fell down onto a stone. Your cultivation level is like that stone, but your cultivation is like water. You can break through to the next cultivation layers like water slips on a stone. Cultivation layers exist, but you are not stuck in them. They are immobile as you break through to the different ones like a river. If you want the water to pierce through the stone, there are many methods. You can increase the speed of the water flow, or can use more water. You can also make the water become sharper. And each time you collide with that stone, you become stronger. What you want to do is break that stone as quickly as possible. No matter, you need to make the water fall onto the same place each time, then you will progress faster. Following each of the Zune cultivator's words, drops of water appeared and fell down onto the stone. "Do you understand?" asked the Zun cultivator while moving his hands. Then the water started flowing even faster and very quickly, the stone disappeared. It is tiring if you use more water. Making the water sharper requires that you become stronger. You need to understand cultivation for that. Each time the water falls at one precise point, you observe and understand the laws of our world. You need perseverance, persistence, and determination to stick to such a task. You need to move forwards with indomitable determination, said Lin Feng slowly. The Zun cultivator looked at Lin Feng, smiled and nodded. Indeed, if you want to become stronger, you need perseverance and determination. But you also need natural abilities, you need hard work, and you need skills. You need to have an iron will and determination. You are all geniuses that will soon break through to the Tianqi layer. If you know the proper methods, if you use your brain and work hard, you will break through to the Tianqi layer very quickly. Cultivation will be even more meaningful for you. When you break through to the Tianqi layer, you will be in perfect fusion with the universe. You will understand the strength of the earth and sky. If you want to break through to the Tianqi layer, you will first need to penetrate into a mysterious cultivation dimension, the human-earth fusion dimension. The crowd stared blankly. Breaking through to the Tianqi layer required such incredible things. What a difficult prerequisite. When you break through to the Tianqi layer, you will need to pay attention to the strength of the earth and sky, and you will need to pay attention to the way you control it. You will need to continue practicing skills and techniques. You will need to continue understanding the different sorts of intent, fire intent, sword intent, firmament intent, and so on. Even if you and an opponent have both broken through to the same Tianqi layer, if you don't understand intent but your opponent does, he can easily defeat you. When you break through to the Tianqi layer, you will need to keep persistent. Then you will try to penetrate into the abstruse significance dimension. However, you are still extremely far from it. You first need to start understanding the strength of the earth and sky. Only those who understand the abstruse significance can become Zun cultivators. The human-earth fusion was necessary to break through to the Tianqi layer, and the abstruse significance was necessary to become a Zun cultivator. There is one more aspect. Understanding the human-earth fusion requires determination and willpower. One cannot give up. If one's heart is polluted, they cannot break through to the Tianqi layer. The Tianqi layer required the understanding of the human-earth fusion. Chapter 688. The Palace of the Emperors. Remember what I told you. In order to break through to the Tianqi layer, you need to understand the human-earth fusion, and you cannot let anything pollute your heart. You will need to remain pure and remain determined. If you let pollution into your heart, you will always remain at the top of the Shenqi layer and will never break through to the Tianqi layer, said the Zun cultivator. They would, of course, remember those precious pieces of advice. You have to work very hard to become stronger. Natural abilities are very important, just like willpower and determination. You also need a great spirit, for it can determine your destiny when you've broken through to the Tianqi layer, said the Zun cultivator. As before, his words were like drums beating in people's hearts. The spirit would play a great role once they would have broken through to the Tianqi layer. For many people, the spirit is something they acquire at birth. It is something fixed and rigid that follows you everywhere and every time while remaining in perfect harmony with your body. Your spirit is a part of your soul. Before the Tianqi layer, you can understand intent. Intent correlates with your spirit, just like Duan Wudao's sealed doors, Di Ling's firmament intent. After the Tianqi layer, your cultivation level will become even higher and you will be able to fuse together with the earth. It will increase the harmony existing between your spirit and your body. You will often sense that your spirit and intent are interconnected, as if they were blending. Many people find that it is closely interrelated with the spirit when they themselves understand what intent is. Therefore, a cultivator of the Tianqi layer who hasn't understood intent is worthless, said the Zun cultivator slowly. Many people looked at Lin Feng. He hadn't broken through to the Tianqi layer, but he already had a level 5 sword intent. He had terrifying natural abilities and had won the great competition of Shuiyu. Such geniuses were extremely rare. Lin Feng, show them your sword intent and how incredible it is, said the Zun cultivator, smiling at Lin Feng. Lin Feng simply smiled politely and said, "All right." Lin Feng turned around and faced a tree. Then he released a terrifying sword intent that made it seem like there were millions of swords in the atmosphere and all of them were filled with a terrifying chi. It seemed like he was about to cut through the world. After that, many small subtle sounds could be heard. People discovered that on the tree there were thousands and thousands of cuts. They had all been caused Lin Feng's energies and intent. He hadn't moved, but with his sword intent he was able to kill people and annihilate things from thousands of meters away. Besides, Lin Feng had only broken through to the Xianqi layer. If he broke through to the Tianqi layer, his sword intent would become much stronger. It would be terrifying. "Not bad," said the Zun cultivator smiling. "That is sword intent. Now I will show you what the abstruse significance is." Abstruse significance? The crowd was absolutely astonished. They were going to have the opportunity to sense some abstruse significance. They were fixated on the old man. "What I study is wind abstruse significance and it transforms wind. You cannot see it, so look carefully," said the old man. He then stood up and another Zun cultivator appeared. It looked like a shadow. Immediately after, some wind started blowing everywhere around the area. Suddenly silhouettes of the old man were appearing. They all stopped in front of the crowd and surrounded them. They were moving around just like the wind. They stretched their hands but couldn't touch them. It as if there had been nobody there at all. Or they possessed no physical body at least. However, another kind of wind started blowing. The crowd was shaking when they sensed that there were people next to them, but they were intangible. Then when they believed that they couldn't touch them, the crowd was suddenly able to. "Are they real?" The crowd was astonished. Abstruse significance? That is abstruse significance. The crowd was astonished. Their hearts were pounding. What they had just seen was only the tip of the iceberg, but they were already amazed. In the past, they had thought that they were extremely strong, but now they were discovering that the world of cultivation was extremely vast. They had the feeling that they were insignificant cultivators. In front of really strong cultivators, they were simply novices. They understood nothing. Besides, in the eyes of the old man they really were just beginners about to enter a new world. Breaking through to the Tianqi layer will give you incredible powers. Your soul will become stronger and you will be able to use it more efficiently. Your spirit will become real and will deploy a monstrous amount of strength. Continued the old man, making the crowd feel even more excited. Cultivators of the Xianqi layer couldn't compete with cultivator of the Tianqi layer. It was a world of difference. I've heard that on the path of cultivation there are shortcuts. Apart from hard work, perseverance, and determination, there are other ways to become stronger? Asked someone. Everybody paid attention to this question. They understood what it meant. That person was asking if joining Shengong would give them special advantages. Was Shengong able to make their cultivation speed increase and become stronger than other people? The Zun cultivator understood what that person meant. He smiled and said, "Of course, no matter what your cultivation level is, there are ways. You just need to find the resources suitable for your cultivation." Improving cultivation of the Tianqi layer necessitates intent crystals that fit their unique cultivation. With those crystals, Tianqi cultivate can understand how to improve their intent. Of course, you need to find the crystal which fits your cultivation. For example, if you study sword intent, you will need to find some sword intent crystals. And it's like this for all sorts of cultivation. Using unrelated crystals can help, but it is not as efficient. Those intent crystals must be extremely expensive and precious, someone said. Of course, Shengong with its power doesn't have many. Only the most determined cultivators should use intent crystals anyways. Of course, in the palace of the emperors there must be a myriad of intent crystals, and even abstruse significance crystals, said the Zun cultivator smiling. People's hearts were pounding. The world of the palace of the emperors was probably the world Bei Ming had told them about. The absolute emperor was stronger than Zun cultivators. He was a master of all cultivators. In the palace of the emperors, there were intent and abstruse significance crystals. Bei Ming already told you that you will find incredible things if you enter the world of the emperors, said the Zun cultivator. Mister, I have one question. How do abstruse significance crystals appear? Asked Lin Feng. Intent crystals are extremely precious, especially Tian level ones. The others, such as sword intent crystals, are less precious. In the past, extremely strong cultivators could probably build abstruse significance crystals by confining themselves in some rooms and studying. Understood, said Lin Feng, nodding. The crowd looked pensive as if they had suddenly understood something. Do you have any other questions? Asked the old man. Everybody remained silent as they had no more questions. Since you have no more questions, let's stop for today. Please leave now, said the old man indifferently. He looked majestic and domineering. People gradually bowed in front of him one after the other and then left. Chapter 689. Tian level skills. The crowd felt a bit overwhelmed after leaving the cultivator of the Zun-Chi layer. In so few words, the cultivator of the Zun-Chi layer had taught them so many things. They hadn't talked a lot, but they had learned a lot about cultivation. They had understood so much more about the Tian-Chi layer. They were filled with ardor. They wanted to master intent and break through to the Tian-Chi layer. They were eager to understand the abstruse significance, a mysterious dimension of cultivation. But they were extremely far away from becoming Zun cultivators. Now they had the occasion to enter the palace of the emperors. They might find some intent crystals or even greater treasures. That world had existed for thousands of years already. Zun cultivators were the protectors and Tian cultivators were the slaves. Nobody would believe it if someone said that there was no treasure there. Even a cultivator of the Zun-Chi layer could go insane for such treasures. But for them, Zun cultivation was a pipe dream. Bei Ming was still in the courtyard watching as the silhouettes came out. He smiled. You must have learnt many things with him. Now let me ask you, who wants to join Shengong? We would be happy to welcome you. The crowd was caught off guard. Apart from Lin Feng, the others were all excited. It seemed like they needed a special environment to become stronger. I do, someone said. So do I, said someone else. Apart from Lin Feng and his friends, the others were all willing to join Shengong. They had all changed their minds. Bei Ming smiled resplendently when he saw them, but as before he was looking at Lin Feng and Jun Emoshi. He had hoped that the two of them would join Shengong. But Lin Feng looked calm and serene, not at all enthusiastic. Lin Feng, Jun Emoshi, Tang Yu, Yun Fei Yang, Qing Meng Xen. Are you considering joining us? Asked Bei Ming. Thank you for showing so much respect, but I have another title. I am already the patriarch of a sect. How could I join another sphere of influence? Said Lin Feng, refusing again. Bei Ming had not realized Lin Feng was already the patriarch of a sect. Jun Emoshi and the others also refused. They were not interested. All right, I will not try to persuade you since you're not interested. Now, follow me, everyone. Bei Ming sighed and shook his head. He brought them up into the air again. After traveling for a short bit, they arrived in front of a palace which reached the clouds. It was there that Bei Ming brought the crowd back to the ground. That palace looked calm and peaceful. It had a gigantic door that they entered and saw an incredible quantity of shoes. There were several people silently looking at some ancient books inside. Cloud Hand, Free Fast Sword, Celestial Energy. Lin Feng looked at the different books and was drooling. There were so many skills. Extremely powerful skills. The lowest skills here are D-level skills of higher quality. It is the place where people of Shengong came to learn skills. You may not take the books away. The skills have to be learned by heart. Otherwise there are no limits, said Bei Ming. Everybody frowned. D-level skills of higher quality. That was already incredible for them. Only people of Shengong could read them though. That was one of the advantages of being part of a sphere of influence. Being born in such an environment was incredible though. With identical natural abilities, there was a huge difference between someone who had grown up there and someone who had relied on themselves to become stronger like they had. I was lucky in the past. I obtained some D-level skills of lower quality, or even Ba Dao did. Now, I can even choose amongst D-level skills of higher quality, thought Lin Feng while smiling wryly and shaking his head. The others were quite excited though. They wouldn't lack skills in the future. They would even be able to practice several skills at the same time. In such a huge palace, there were billions of skills and they would be able to choose any of them. Lin Feng, you finished first at the great competition of Shuiyu, so Shengong will offer you a present. If you accept to join Shengong, we will allow you to go to the second floor of the palace and choose some Tian-level skills and techniques. But if you don't, I can't allow you to choose yourself. If you tell me what you want to study and what kind of skill, I will get it for you. Tian-level skills. The crowd was jealous looking at Lin Feng. If Lin Feng accepted to join Shengong, he would obtain some Tian-level skills. Unfortunately, he kept refusing their offer over and over again. Even if Lin Feng refused, the others wouldn't get such an opportunity. Tian-level skills, whispered Lin Feng. He didn't need skills though. He already had the Cosmic Burning Sun skill. He also knew techniques and other magical powers. The 9,000 rotation Haruka strength skill, some sword skills and techniques. He had defensive and offensive skills. His skills weren't weaker than Tian-level skills. Lin Feng, I would like to remind you that Tian-level skills already contain intent strength. If you can understand intent, you can choose a sword skill, sword formula, said Bei Ming. Sword formula, Lin Feng shook his head. He had a bloodthirsty sword and level 5 sword intent. He also had the sword of the arid and empty area. Those were enough already, he didn't need more. I need an agility technique. I need to be able to use wind intent, said Lin Feng. Lin Feng lacked agility techniques. He hadn't been able to match others in terms of speed during the competition. He needed an agility technique. Alright. I will help you find one, said Bei Ming, nodding. He then took out a jade key with the number 5 on it. He put it in a multicolored door and opened it. Then Bei Ming disappeared. What a mysterious place, thought the crowd. They were wondering what kind of technique Bei Ming was going to take. Unfortunately, Jun Emoshi didn't feel like joining Shengong either. Otherwise, he would have chosen some skills too. After a short time, Bei Ming came back with a piece of jade in his hand. It was memory jade. Lin Feng, that is a Tian-level technique of lower quality. It is 9 days wind chi. It helps you understand wind intent. Take it, said Bei Ming. Lin Feng looked at it and put it away. Bei Ming was sad. Lin Feng wasn't joining Shengong, but he was obtaining the technique. What a pity. Jun Emoshi and Tang Yuyu, if you join Shengong you will also get Tian-level skills. But, unfortunately you keep refusing. You can take some D-level skills for yourselves and up to 5. I will send some people to Dragon Mountain by the way. Thank you, you are kind. But I don't need any presents though, said Jun Emoshi, shaking his head. He was satisfied with what he had. Tian-level skills were attractive but nothing less. D-level skills were precious but not to him. Tang Yuyu and Qing Meng Xian didn't take anything either. They didn't also felt the same. Yun Fei Yang didn't refuse though and took 5 skills. Leader, I want to leave and go to the palace of the emperors. Alright, take your things, said Bei Ming, waving. The crowd then took a jade stone that he was handing out. Then he said, in that stone is a map for you to find where the palace of the emperors is. You all have 3 months to arrive. Alright, nodded Lin Feng and the others. They all looked at each other. They were becoming strong cultivators and Shengong wanted to use them. Shengong had no doubts about them. Chapter 690. Wrath. Bei Ming accompanied them as they left. After all, he was the leader of Shengong North. Don't forget, 3 months later we will see each other again, said Bei Ming to Lin Feng and the others. Everybody smiled. Amongst those 5, the weakest were Yun Fei Yang and Qing Meng Xian, but their future was still going to be incredible. They would probably become incredible geniuses in a time frame of 10 years. Of course, only if they left Shuiyu. Lin Feng and the others, however, would have to leave Shuiyu. Leader, don't worry about walking us out, said Lin Feng. Bei Ming nodded. He had been extremely good to them already. He was the leader of Shengong North and had given them face the entire time. Besides, being the leader of Shengong North meant that he was already an incredible cultivator. He wasn't an ordinary cultivator of the Tianqi layer. All right, said Bei Ming, nodding. He then turned around and moved back into the palace. Shui Wuchang also nodded to them and said, Lin Feng, I really look forward to seeing you again. I do as well, I hope you will remember me, said Qing Chan, smiling at Lin Feng. She looked a bit sad, almost sick at heart. Mr. Shui, Qing Chan, I will remember you, said Lin Feng with an honest smile. He also looked kind-hearted, but things had to change. This time Jun Mo Shi, Tang Yu, Shui Wuchang and so on. Lin Feng's head was filled with beautiful memories. Let's go, said Shui Wuchang. Then he and Qing Chan went back into Shingong. Life was filled with surprises. We are the only ones left, said Lin Feng to Jun Mo Shi and the others. Everyone else had all joined Shingong, even Yu Tianming. Maybe Yu Tianming would become even stronger there. Indeed, we are the only ones left. Let's go, said Jun Mo Shi smiling. It's a good thing that you have to cross Dragon Mountain on your way back to Shuiyu. We can chat together on the way back. Did your parents go back? Asked Lin Feng. Jun Mo Shi nodded and said, they left when we were in Shingong. Let's go to the fighting stage, some people are waiting for us there, said Jun Mo Shi smiling. Then they rose up in the air and flew towards the fighting stage of Shuiyu. There weren't many things left on that stage, everything looked destroyed or broken. Lin Feng's sword had left so many marks inside. Around the fighting stage were still some people, they looked like they were still recalling the events of the great competition of Shuiyu. They shivered when they saw Lin Feng and the others come back. Lin Feng, Jun Mo Shi, it seems like they have decided not to join Shingong, thought the crowd. They were a bit surprised. Dragon Mountain had seen 6 of its geniuses obtain excellent rankings. 3 of them were in the top 5. Lin Feng had finished first and Jun Mo Shi had 4th, and they were such good friends now. Your Excellency, said some people from Dragon Mountain. Lin Feng looked in the air and saw a ferocious, wild beast there. Someone was chasing that beast. You won't escape, animal, threatened someone while smiling. That animal was a ferocious, ancient animal. Roa. The winged tiger roared when it saw Lin Feng. It seemed furious. Lin Feng had come so Wu Qing couldn't stop him anymore. He didn't dare. How audacious, shouted Lin Feng furiously. A cloud of dust rose up along with Lin Feng. Roa. The winged tiger was furious as it lowered its head. Lin Feng immediately landed on its body and the winged tiger calmed down. The one chasing the winged tiger had stopped. He started shaking out of fear. Lin Feng. He had seen Lin Feng win the competition and knew how terrifying Lin Feng was. He had even been able to defeat Duan Wu Dao and Di Ling. When he saw how docile they became, he realized that it must have been Lin Feng's. Get lost, shouted Lin Feng. Roar. The winged tiger chased that person. It seemed like he was still furious, but then he realized how strong Lin Feng was. That young man was becoming even more terrified. Lin Feng looked calm and serene, surprisingly. Of course, the winged tiger was also proud of Lin Feng. Lin Feng moved back to the fighting stage of Shuiyu. Jun Mo Shi smiled and jumped onto the back of the wing too. Xiaoya, Han Man, Pajun, hop on as well, shouted Lin Feng. All of them jumped on the winged tiger. And then they dived into the clouds. Everybody raised their heads to watch the silhouettes leave. Those geniuses were leaving, and the other geniuses had already left for different places. Some of them had joined the East Sea Dragon Palace, some the Jade Heaven Imperial family, some the 9 Cloud Sword sect, and the rest to Shingong. In the air, clouds were rolling. The winged tiger was clapping its wings as it flew towards Dragon Mountain. Jun Mo Shi looked to Tang Yu and said, we succeeded this time, Dragon Mountain succeeded. We have the best winning statistics. Yu, let's take out some alcohol to celebrate. I can't waste the alcohol, said Tang Yu smiling. Then she started taking out a massive amount of bottles. Jun Mo Shi and the others each grabbed a bottle or 2 smiling. Han Man, Pajun, I want to warn you that those are fine liquors. Let's drink together, said Lin Feng, passing them bottles as well. The liquors of the Tang clan were precious. Han Man and took a bottle with his eyes twinkling. He immediately opened it and tried it. Good stuff, bro. I've never had the occasion to drink alcohol in the army, said Han Man, sounding a bit saddened. He had a hard life in Duanren City. How is the army? How is Uncle Lu? Is he all right? asked Lin Feng frowning. He was wondering how people in Duanren City were doing. Very difficult, said Han Man shaking his head. We fought against MOU for a long time and then we withdrew troops. We suffered too many losses. We stopped fighting at the Duanren border so we could defend the northwest. The country of Lai Yun had intervened and wanted to steal Duanren City. We lack good fighters because what happened at the Duanren border. Every day is a bloodbath. The most terrifying fact is that we are dispirited. Shui doesn't help us. We have no food, no medicine, no weapons. We have nothing. We have been abandoned to the enemies. We are at the mercy of two countries, said Han Man sounding desperate. His eye had become bloodshot when he spoke of his misfortunes. We are Shuiyu troops. If you hadn't been there, Lin Feng, we would have died last time. Shuiyu wouldn't have helped us. How could we still hope for help? Said Pajun mockingly. He didn't understand why they let people die in Duanren City. A bloodbath, troops dying every day. But the monarch didn't care, as if their lives didn't count. Lin Feng was furious when he heard him. He took another sip of alcohol and said, when we're back in Shuiyu, I will put an end to it. All right. Han Man's eyes gleamed with hope. With Lin Feng's strength, the troops would become motivated, and to back them up was Pajun and Xiaoya. They would be pleasantly surprised. The winner of the great competition of Shuiyu, he who despised the high officials and even the crown prince Duan Wudao, was coming back a hero. Chapter 691. Dazzling lights. There was a group of people arriving from the sky in the imperial city of Dragon Mountain. They were very high up and were wearing imperial Chang Paos. The leader was wearing a dragon robe and looked particularly domineering and imposing with his warlord Qi. That person was a respectable cultivator in Dragon Mountain and was returning from Micheng. He was the emperor of Dragon Mountain, Jun Mo Shi's father. There were several people from the imperial city following him as well. There was also a group of people of the Tang clan on their right, and a group of people from the Cosmic Pavilion on their left. They were all gazing into the distance as if they had seen someone coming back. Previously, they had heard the news that 6 people from Dragon Mountain had finished in the top 16 at the great competition of Shuiyu. According to the rumors, 3 people from Dragon Mountain, including Jun Mo Shi, had finished in the top 5. Jun Mo Shi had finished 4th. Dragon Mountain had been the most dazzling empire of that year's great competition. There was a huge crowd forming below. They were trying to guess who had finished first at the competition. What are your thoughts, Shi Yun? Asked a middle-aged man to a young and beautiful girl. Shi Yun shook her head and smiled. Shi Yun, said a young man again. He smiled and said, my brother will come back soon, even though he didn't finish the great competition of Shui. He was able to dazzle and his cultivation level is now incredible. When he comes back, I will propose the Hua clan a marriage alliance. My clan will support me. I'm not interested, said Hua Shi Yun indifferently. This made the young man very angry. Wu Xian, Shi Yun is not interested in a relationship. I am honored that you're interested in her, but don't mention such things again, said Hua Jiao Yang frowning. That young man had neither learning nor skill and was just a pervert. He wasn't as good as Shi Yun. She deserved much better than that. Besides, with what happened last time, Hua Jiao Yang wasn't going to force his daughter to get married anymore. If she wasn't interested, then she wasn't interested and he would respect her choice. Chui Wu Xen was trying to get a girlfriend using his brother's name, Chui Wu Ming. Hua Jiao Yang, Chui Wu Xen already gave you face, don't make me lose face now. Wait until my brother comes back, then you will see that you don't have a choice, said Chui Wu Xen groaning coldly. Hua Jiao Yang pulled a long face. What a bastard. That guy was incompetent and was trying to use his brother's name and influence, seeing how Chui Wu Ming was coming back. They arrived. It seems like they arrived, said several people suddenly. They were gasping with amazement while gazing into the distance. There were so many beasts, it really seemed like they had come back. Alright, my brother came back, said Chui Wu Xen, smiling coldly and glancing at Hua Jiao Yang and Hua Shi Yun. He hoped that he could rely on his brother and clan to dazzle because he was so incompetent. Then he would get what he wanted, such as Shi Yun. Huo Yang and He Yun were also gazing into the distance. That group of people in the sky was getting nearer and nearer. Beasts from Dragon Mountain. The candidates from the great competition of Shui Yu came back. People were intrigued and staring as they arrived. Someone noticed one person in particular, Jun Mo Shi. Jun Mo Shi, the best cultivator of Dragon Mountain, is back. What did he finish as? He must have been an extremely dazzling cultivator. There was also Tang Yuyu, Qing Meng Xian, Chui Wu Ming, Leng Shui. They had all gone to the great competition of Shui Yu. There was also another young man. He was sitting on an ancient, ferocious, wild beast and was wearing white clothes. He looked majestic, but they had never seen him. That ferocious, ancient animal was extremely rare. It was a winged tiger. However, Shi Yun and Huo Yang were astonished to see him, especially Shi Yun, who started trembling. It's Lin Feng, it's really Lin Feng. He hasn't died, he's still alive. Lin Feng is still alive and has even participated at the great competition of Shui Yu. Shi Yun's eyes were twinkling and her thoughts were moving quickly in her head. She nibbled her lips and turned red. She had bit her lips so hard that some blood appeared. He was moving in the wind very quickly. In a flash, the crowd arrived in front of the people from Dragon Mountain. Jun Mo Shi, Yu, Meng Xing. Those three names were resonating together. They looked proud. Dragon Mountain managed to steal 3 places without counting the countries under its jurisdiction. Then there were 13 other countries to count on. Those young people looked matured. Besides, their chi had completely changed. They must have gone through incredible things at that great competition of Shui Yu. They had faced death, they had kept fighting against their own selves, they had challenged their other incredible geniuses. They had become stronger faster than anyone else could have. Alright, not bad this time. Dragon Mountain finished with 6 people in the top 10 and 4 people in the top 6. We have 3 people in the top 4. And the champion of the competition comes from a country under our jurisdiction. This time, you made our empire dazzle. You are the glory of our empire, said the emperor, receiving them with the resplendent smile. The crowd was astonished. How incredible! The champion of the competition came from a country under their jurisdiction? They looked at the crowd in the sky. Everybody had thought that Jun Mo Shi would finish first. It had to be him, right? Qing Meng Xian from the Cosmic Pavilion, 10th. You are a dazzling cultivator in Dragon Mountain, thank you, said the emperor, bowing in front of Qing Meng Xian. Everybody was astonished. He was so respectful to those glorious champions. He was even thanking them. Emperor. Everybody raised their heads and looked at him in a respectful way. They felt moved. Yun Fei Yang, I don't know where you're from, Shui Yu, Tianfeng, or Dragon Empire. But in any case, you made our empire dazzle because you finished 8th. Congratulations. Thank you. The crowd also looked at Yun Fei Yang. He had astonished them back then before the competition had even started. They had had the impression that Yun Fei Yang was a bit too weak back then. They had never thought that he would end up amongst the most incredible geniuses at the competition. Surprisingly, he had finished 8th. How incredible! Tang Yu of the Tang clan, you finished 6th. Congratulations and thank you, said the emperor as nicely and respectfully as before. Tang Yu had surprisingly finished 6th. How strong! Qing Meng Xian and Tang Yu definitely deserve to be called the strongest women of the country. Not to mention, they were both extremely beautiful. Jun Mo Shi of the Imperial City clan of Dragon Mountain, you finished 4th. You are a dazzling cultivator. You are the Prince of Dragon Mountain, said the emperor, making the crowd shiver. Jun Mo Shi was the prince. They knew that, but he had finished 4th. The emperor had said that 3 people from Dragon Mountain had finished in the top 4. Who were the 2 others then? The second champion of the great competition of Shui Yu is Duan Wu Dao, Prince of Shui Yu. He hasn't come, but I would still like to thank him as well. Duan Wu Dao was the Prince of Shui Yu and had finished 2nd. The second was from Shui Yu, who was the first one then. They were all glancing at the crowd. They were eager to know who the first one was. Who was the most dazzling cultivator of Shui Yu? Chapter 692. Gathering the emperor slowly turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng from Shuiyu, you finished at the very top of the rankings. You are the most dazzling young cultivator of Shuiyu. You are the pride of our empire, Dragon Mountain. Thanks to you we are stronger than any other empire in Shuiyu. Thank you, said the emperor bowing in front of Lin Feng. Lin Feng was the champion of the competition. Lin Feng. The crowd was astonished. The first one was Lin Feng? They looked at Lin Feng in the sky and had the impression that they were dreaming. They would have never thought that Lin Feng would finish first. Lin Feng, you are the Qixie Marquis of Shuiyu and I am the Emperor of Dragon Mountain. From now on, I grant you the title of Qixie King of Dragon Mountain, and I also grant you the title of Ruler of Shuiyu. I will send people to Shuiyu with you and they will declare those things to the public. From now, you don't need to pay tributes to the imperial family of Shuiyu. You and the king of Shuiyu are on equal footing, said the emperor. He was attributing a special title to Lin Feng and making him a noble in the entire empire. Lin Feng had refused to join the Nine-Cloud Sword sect. The emperor was very happy, so he granted a special title to Lin Feng. He respected Lin Feng. Shuiyu was a country under the jurisdiction of Dragon Mountain, so the emperor held the utmost power. Even though he didn't get involved in Shuiyu's affairs, he could still grant Lin Feng a special title in Shuiyu. That was a way to protect Lin Feng from everybody else. Nobody could give him any order in Shuiyu, not even the king. Thank you, said Lin Feng. He was now the ruler of Shuiyu, not bad. Just a typical Tuesday for our Lin Feng. The crowd was shivering. Lin Feng had become the ruler of Shuiyu. His status was the same as that of the king of Shuiyu. Ruler, whispered Hu Shiyun. That young man was farther and farther from her. All right, come down everybody, don't be shy, said the emperor. He didn't look as solemn and respectful as a moment before, he looked friendly now. At the same time, he jumped towards Lin Feng and said, Lin Feng, what do you intend to do now? I'm going to go back to Shuiyu, said Lin Feng. He hadn't gone back for such a long time. His family and everybody else were probably very worried. All right, I will send Lan Shan with you, said the emperor. He then turned back to Lan Shan and said, Lan Shan, the mission is yours. No problem, said Ruo Lan Shan nodding. He then looked at Lin Feng and said, Congratulations. Mister, you brought me to Dragon Mountain. Thank you, said Lin Feng extremely politely. Don't call me Mister anymore, please. I don't deserve it. You are so strong. Keep up the good work. Jian Chen came back to Dragon Mountain after the competition and is still practicing cultivation. You will all have an incredible future. Ruo Lan Shan obeyed to the emperor. Lin Feng was the most dazzling cultivator at the competition, so the emperor wanted everything to be perfect for him. You're going back? Asked Tang Yuyu. Yes, said Lin Feng nodding. Oh, Tang Yuyu forced herself to smile. She was sad. Then she added, Take care. You too. We will see each other in 3 months. So you're not going to stay with us. Instead you're abandoning us, said Qing Meng Xen smiling. She was crossing her arms on her chest. Abandoning? Lin Feng smiled wryly and said, I left Shuiyu a long time ago. I must go back. We will see each other in 3 months, all right? You might not pay attention to me anymore then, joked Qing Meng Xen. Lin Feng smiled wryly and said, Don't worry, I will never forget such a beautiful woman. Hee hee, you know how to make girl happy, said Qing Meng Xen in a seducing way. Behind them was Tang Yuyu's father and Qing Meng Xen's teacher, but they didn't immediately bother them when they saw that they were talking to Lin Feng. Tang Yuyu's father had never seen his daughter act so friendly to anyone. Besides, Qing Meng Xen was usually so seductive, no men could resist her. But now Lin Feng could, and Qing Meng Xen was his friend. She was friends with the great champion of the great competition of Shuiyu. Lin Feng wasn't weak at all. Lin Feng, if you have the opportunity, come back to us, said Zhu Nimoshi. The crowd was stupefied. They hadn't thought that all those geniuses would be such good friends. How incredible! I will come for a walk if I have the time, said Lin Feng. He was sad to leave too. He wasn't insensitive, they had gone through so much together. Get lost, said someone at that moment. It was a familiar voice that resonated in Lin Feng's ears. He turned his head and saw someone. A man was trying to force a girl to hug him. "Well, sure you, don't force me to be even more violent," said Chui Wu Exin coldly. "You're done," said He Shiyun to Chui Wu Exin. Chui Wu Exin was surprised and retorted, while smiling, "I'm done? How could you say that? Are you dreaming? My brother is here, how could anything happen?" "I'm here." Chui Wu Exin turned around, saw Silhouette land next to him. He was even more surprised. Lin Feng was stronger than his brother Chui Wu Ming. "Lin Feng?" Chui Wu Ming stuttered. In the past Lin Feng couldn't rival with him, but now he could only look up at him. "Is he your real brother?" asked Lin Feng, pointing at Chui Wu Exin. "No, he's not," said Chui Wu Ming, shaking his head. "Get lost," said Lin Feng. Chui Wu Ming had no words. "Lin Feng, I'm taking Chui Wu Exin away, so forget about what happened." "No," said Lin Feng coldly. He then looked at He Shiyun and said, "What do you want me to do to him?" "You decide," said He Shiyun while staring at Lin Feng, as if she had forgotten about Chui Wu Exin. In the past Lin Feng had left and she never heard about him again. "Gotcha!" Suddenly a dazzling light that looked like a sun appeared on Chui Wu Exin's body. "Nine Sun Skill, are you a member of the Hua clan?" asked Chui Wu Ming. He didn't understand. "Shi Yun is my little sister. How could I not kill him?" said Lin Feng to Chui Wu Ming. He hadn't realized. He then lowered his head and said, "You're right." "You understand, that's all that matters," said Lin Feng coldly. Immediately after he rose up in the air. He Shiyun was surprised. She looked at Lin Feng leaving again. Some tears appeared in her eyes. "Little sister? Jun Emoshi, help me take care of my little sister." He Shiyun looked at Lin Feng and Jun Emoshi. Jun Emoshi nodded, but He Shiyun seemed like she heard nothing. She just blankly stared at them. Then Lin Feng left on his beast, moving so fast that whistling sounds spread in the air. Lin Feng had appeared so abruptly and had disappeared again so abruptly. He Jiao Yang sighed. Life was intriguing sometimes. Lin Feng had helped them once again, he had helped He Shiyun once again, and he made her cry once again. Many people were watching Lin Feng leave. "I have some things to do too. We'll see each other in 3 months," said someone at that moment. Yun Fei Yang then jumped onto a ferocious, wild beast and left. Nobody knew where he was going. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.